Yep. And you are on.
We are now streaming live on YouTube. It's Friday, February the 12th at 1:09 p.m. This is a workshop of the governing body being done virtually. And it has an agenda involving a number of technical items. So let's begin with a roll call by the city clerk, please.
Sure. Mayor Weber?
Present.
Councilor Beta?
Here.
Councilor Cassett Sanchez?
Here.
Councilor Garcia?
Present.
Councilor Lindell?
Here.
Councilor Rivera is excused and will be joining us shortly. Councilor Romero Worth?
I'm here.
Councilor Vigil Koppler?
Here.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Present.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Move to approve.
You guys were
I'll
a dead
second.
heat. I heard Councilor Lindell make the motion, and I heard Councilor Vigil Koppler second the motion to approve the agenda. Could the clerk call the roll on that motion, please?
Councilor Beta?
Yes.
Councilor Cassett Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Lindell?
Councilor Lindell.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilor Romero Worth?
Yes.
Councilor Vigil Koppler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. Madam Clerk, maybe you could go through item 3, A, B, C, and D for those who don't have the agenda in front of them, so everybody knows what the agenda is that was just approved. It's a series of 4 discussion items.
Yes, Mayor. There is a series of discussion items and presentations. Just to, if anyone doesn't have the agenda in front of them, we have a presentation and overview and process for next request, followed by a similar sequence for Primegov and then the CRM. And then we will have the parliamentary procedure and timely topics at the end of the meeting. So there are no action items. This is discussion and presentation, Mayor.
Thank you. So with that, Madam Clerk, I think you may be the coordinator of these presentations. Item 3A is the next request overview and process with Cindy Whiting and Aaron McSherry. So if we could begin with the presentation.
Yes, Aaron, if you would like to do the introduction, and also if you'd like to have your staff join for this portion.
Yes, if the staff who helps out with IPRA, who has been helping out with the extreme caseload, could all turn on your cameras so everyone can see you. I wanted to recognize the work of this team because they've been collaborating over the last few months as we consolidate all the requests under one software, including all the police requests. So 3 of the paralegals from my office have been helping with the management of that extremely high number of requests. And Cindy Whiting from my office is the records custodian. So she's going to help us with the presentation today. But I also wanted to recognize in my squares, Justine Hines, who is one of our paralegals. She primarily is based at the municipal court, but she's been helping us particularly with a lot of the police records. Tanya Valletta, who is in City Hall typically when we used to be in City Hall. She's helped out as well. Julie Kenny was not able to make it today, but she's another paralegal from my office who has been helping quite a bit with redactions. And then Greg Gouroulet had been with the police department and then has moved over into the constituent and communications office, but has still been extremely involved in the police records production and very, very helpful to coordinating that through the Next Request software. So we started the Next Request software in May, and these folks have really helped make it be a success. So I wanted to recognize them today because it's been a lot of hard work and I'm not sure everyone knows them. So it's an opportunity for them to make an appearance. So thank you, everybody. So then I do have a couple slides just to talk about the advantages of the Next Request software and why we decided to procure such a software. We had heard about it or heard about the opportunity from other governments and saw presentations of what they were doing and thought it would be a really good idea. The police department and my office were very interested, and we collaborated to select this software. You'll see later in the presentation with Cindy what the number of requests we get for police records. So it was really important to have that particular department be involved in this selection of software. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm showing this. Oh, and Mike Prince, I think, was online too. So he's our attorney that's been offering legal guidance. I think I saw him appear earlier, but did he share his screen or did he show his video? He's been providing a lot of advice to this team on redactions and things like that, because it can get complicated sometimes, particularly in relation to personal identifying information, and a number of other types of records the city has. So kind of the categories of areas that Next Request have helped us in are data. You'll see that we can do automated report creation now, and there's a dashboard that has the status of pending requests that Cindy will be showing. In terms of efficiency, there's alerts to the public that Cindy will show you that alert them if they're requesting a record that the city actually doesn't retain, such as like a marriage record. The proper custodian for that is the county. It has preset templates for communications with the public and the staff, and it has a centralized hub for relevant communications and production. So that helps when we have multiple people working on one IPRA. In terms of transparency, it both produces the documents online for the requesters. Requesters can look at each other's requests as well as their own. And it's actually searchable by the public, all those produced documents by keyword. And then in terms of risk reduction, if we need to respond to a complaint to the AG, we're able to actually provide them a screenshot that shows dates that people downloaded documents. We had a situation recently where someone said documents weren't produced, but they actually just hadn't accessed them. And it showed the date that they were uploaded and then the fact that they hadn't been viewed yet. The automated overview and soon to be due alerts are helpful so that our staff can see on an overview day-to-day basis what is due and what is soon to be due without having to create their own tracking devices. And then the shared hub allows, if someone's out on leave, another staff member can basically pick up the baton where the last person was working and continue the production. So Cindy's going to cover the public view, the internal view, document uploading, and our dashboard. So I'll let Cindy take over. Thanks, Cindy.
Hi, everybody. I'll share the screen and show you Next Request. And I don't have it up. So does that mean I have to go into?
So you
I
should
have
be
to-
able, do you see the lime green share screen on the bottom, Cindy? It might look a little different in this
Yeah.
workshop than it did
But-
when we practiced.
But I don't have I don't have Next Request up right now.
Ah, okay.
That is the problem. Okay, so I'll up. Oh yeah, I do. So I should be able to. Let's see.
Just go to the
Share
city homepage and let's show everybody how you can link to it straight from the homepage.
I have to share screen first, and I don't have it up, I guess. I don't see it.
So if you make sure you have a browser open, Cindy, first.
I do, and I have Next Request open.
Okay, so under your share screen, you can see what's open on your desktop.
It has to be the same browser.
Oh, that's the problem, I guess. Well, I did it yesterday this way. So what's the browser?
Otherwise, I think it does. I don't know.
Yesterday I did it with Internet Explorer.
Yeah. Well, another option is I could share my screen and we could, I can click where you tell me to.
I'm
can open-
sorry. Yeah.
One sec.
Or I could open it in a different browser. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. Oh, here we go. No,
Here it is.
no, wait. Can you see it? Wait, get rid of this.
That looks like your email.
Yeah, we can see the share screen now, but we'll,
Okay, I'm trying to get rid of this. I'm trying to get rid of that.
oh. I saw the city's homepage there for a second. Maybe if you could go back to that.
Here's next request. Now can you see it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, very good. So the way that the public gets to make a request, I think it's important to show that, right? This is next request once you're in it. But the way the
Okay.
public gets into it, they go to the city website and then they can go to what's called Hot Topics, which is a key thing at the top of the page, Hot Topics. And then they can cursor down to where it says Public Records Request. And then they go here and they'll see at the top left, Make Request. They'll click on Make Request. And then here, there's a big blank space where they can enter in what they want. Just for example, if they're saying, I want a marriage record from 1967, once they start putting in the word marriage, there's a flag, I don't know the correct term, but there's a pop-up that'll say, marriage, divorce, birth are not created or maintained by the city of Santa Fe. Please contact the state of New Mexico for birth and death records. Divorce decrees can be obtained through the district courts. So that saves us a lot of time fielding things that we don't have records for. But as we all know, or the IPRA team knows, 99 or 95% of it'll be, I want this police report from this day. And so they'll put in what they want, and then they put in their email address and their name. I think they can kind of get away with not putting in their street address and phone. And then I don't want to create another dummy because I've done that and it's kind of not good. And then once they enter their information, then they can, this make request will be dark blue and they click on that. Once the second they touch that and click make request, then they now have a new request in the system and it will pop up on the page. This is all requests. It'll be the top one. Oh, this shows I'm not signed in. They will also get an email that says, you have a new request with the city of Santa Fe for public records. And it'll say, please create an account. They can create a password and then they can go in and view their request at any time to see what's going on. They can be assured that it's in the system. So I'll pick one of these requests as an example. And it's to show you what the format is for the page for the request. It shows the number of the requests. This one happens to be closed, but when it's brand new, it'll say open. It'll say, I want the following records from the city, whatever it may be. It'll say the date it came in. It'll say the due date, which if you're familiar with IPRA, automatically goes 3 business days from the date of receipt, the date we get it. Initially, when it comes in, it will have no assignment. And I go in and I create, it'll say none assigned. And that's my job. Part of my job is to assign the department by reading the request. It will, below that, it'll have any documents that staff members upload. And say I assign this to the police. We've got it programmed where I've created each department within the city, and then I've created all the staff people that are associated with that department. So here's police department. It automatically puts in Greg, GJG, A. Padilla, BP Valdez, any people that automatically are in that department. Also, if I want to add support people, because we know how things are fluid, so and so may be, oh, you should ask, a staff member may say, and here you see on the top right, we can message each other. You can message me and say, hey, Cindy, I don't understand what's going on with this IPRA. Can you please explain, or call me at this number? Or you can say, please add Joe Smith as staff member. So then I would go down here and add another support person, Joe Smith. So just so you know, it's important for you to know that these 2 little bubbles on the top right, if you want to talk to me, no one else, I mean, other people that are staff people on the request will be able to see what you're saying, but it's not going to go out to the public. If you click these 2 little bubbles, you can say, hi, Cindy, I don't know what's going on, or I don't know how to do this, or call me. And then you can send the message to me. Because I understand, I mean, it's taken me 8 months and I'm still learning stuff. So I can appreciate you not understanding how to use next request. This first little icon here, there's templates uploaded in here where I can either create an unique custom, I mean, I can just send a message to a request. You're saying, hi, I need a social security number and a date of birth to better get the records that you're requesting. Or I can pick from the templates and say, this request has been extended as we need more time to locate the responsive records. It'll just populate, bingo, which is very nice. I used to have to always cut and paste it in the past before we had this from a different file. Anyway, and then you as staff, counselors, if you want to upload a document that you have in response, say you've been named as staff and you want to add a document, say you've got emails or a document that you can upload, you'll click here. Well, let me go back so I don't confuse you. You go back to where it's this little paper clip and you browse for file, say it's on your desktop. So you'll go browse for file to upload. It'll let you go into your own computer. And once you click open, you'll be uploading a document. And also, so you know, when that document's uploaded, it goes right over here to the left-hand side of the page, and it'll be under staff only, meaning it's not viewable to the public. If you want to alert me, if you want to say, Cindy, I just uploaded a document, you can do it again where the little bubbles are. Cindy, I just uploaded a document. I think maybe there's something privileged. So just wanted to let you know. But you can rest assured that it'll be uploaded to where it says staff only first. And I or any of the other people on my team will be reviewing it, making redactions before, and only after we've done that, then we'll click this little eyeball and make it viewable to the public. Or we can make it viewable to us and the requester. But I never do it requester and staff. I don't know. I always publish things, which means in the future, then anyone in the public can view the document once the request has been closed. When I close this one, I can reopen it just to show you when I want to close the request. I'll click here on close request, and there's a number of templates there. I can say fulfilled. You have been sent an electronic file in response. And the city considers this closed, and I'll make sure that it's published. And once I hit save, this request has been published, and anyone in the public can then view this request and the responsive documents. Anyone on either me or anybody else on my, I guess it's only me that can change the visibility from staff only to public.
Cindy, I think one of the counselors might have a question. Is it a question you want answered right now, Counselor Villarreal?
Well, it's pertinent to what you just described, what Cindy just described about uploads.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if there's an easier way to get emails into the upload without having to save every single one to a file and then uploading all of those from a file. Is there another way to do that?
That's been a difficult question for me where I'm not real good at that. I don't, if you can somehow append it to create like a dummy blank PDF and then append them.
So let's, on that question, Cindy, maybe this is a good time to talk about, so there's been, I think, questions about if Cindy can do an email search, why does she ask staff or counselors to also do an email search? And there's two parts to that question, I would say. So one is there's a chance that some of you might receive emails to a non-city account. I recommend you try to avoid that. I don't recommend that you do that, but I know that it's possible that it could happen. Like now and then people accidentally have my personal email saved somewhere and they'll be trying to send it to my work, but they accidentally send it to my personal. It even happens with the city clerk's office because I was on a commission before I was at the city. So now and then they'll like accidentally send something to my personal email. So I just forward it back to my work email and then respond to it from there. And I do recommend that people use their work email for work stuff so that it streamlines this type of process, but also if we ever are in a lawsuit or anything like that, it streamlines the discovery process. But the second part to that, so the part one is Cindy needs to make sure we've covered our bases, and that if you have a different account that might have something responsive, you have an obligation to check that and let her know. But then part two is what we're trying to do now, and I think Cindy did this on one of the requests that came in this week related to Midtown, is to say, I'm doing X search. And then if you have anything beyond that, like maybe she doesn't know all the key terms, or maybe you have an email that wouldn't have the key term, but still is related to the subject matter that's being requested, you could let her know either, like you could make sure that her key term that she's doing her search on will cover everything that you have that's responsive. You could respond back and say, here's what else would need to be searched in order to finish that production to make it entirely responsive. Or then you could at least have a reduced number of emails that you need to give her if you're able to do a search that's something different than what she's done that only produces maybe a handful. So that makes it easier for uploading too, because there's a fewer number. That doesn't necessarily address is there an easier way to upload, but at least maybe would reduce the number or whether or not you actually do need to upload.
But to answer Councilwoman's question, there is an easier way. To upload, you would have to create a folder in your Outlook first, move all your emails into that folder, and right-click on that folder to convert it to a PDF.
Thank you, Tanya. I was just gonna
Yeah.
ask you, because I figured you'd know this better than me.
Tanya,
Yeah, so
for that info,
so
can
once
you
it's
say that again?
so you go into your emails, you move them all to a new folder. Once all your emails that are related to the topic are in that folder, you right-click on that folder and you convert that folder to a PDF.
Well, that's really helpful, Tanya. Maybe we could summarize that to send out to these folks so they could just keep
Yeah.
it on hand. Okay, that'd be great. Awesome. Thank you.
And then just on that similar point about duplication of efforts or trying to avoid that, can we assume that staff, when they do an overall search and there's emails that every single counselor receives on a certain topic, can we assume that that's going to make it into the pool so that we don't have to like search for all of those that are basically the same emails that every single one of us gets?
Yeah, so I think that would, if what she says is going to cover it, then I think yes.
Okay.
But that's the type of thing, it would be that's what we need everyone here to help do, is to make sure what she says her search is covering will include whatever that matter is. Because now and then, we could talk about something and be like, oh, that thing last night that happened, like that might not have the keyword in it, but it's about whatever, right? So that would be why we can't just always do a search and make sure we find everything. Someone might say item 18 on the calendar, and then someone else might say the name of it, that type of thing.
I have a question, please. Tanya, I just went into my Outlook. I have a folder and I've right-clicked on it. And I don't see anywhere that it says convert to PDF.
Do you all have Adobe Pro or do you just have Reader?
Only the baby Jesus knows that.
I believe that we just have Reader. I was dealing with this the other day with Jesse Guillen as well. So we do not have Adobe Pro. I guess I'm baby Jesus now.
We can absolutely get that. It's actually good to know that you don't have the Adobe Pro. So I will work with IT to make sure that the council can get that installed on their city devices.
Tanya, is it required to have Adobe Pro to do what you described?
Yeah, Adobe Pro is the one that automatically produces the portfolios out of Outlook.
Okay, so that neat little trick that you just told me, Tanya, I can't do, right?
Counselor,
You will be able to do.
You will be, yeah, Counselor, I'll just send an email to IT. So we will coordinate to get Adobe Pro on the city issued devices ASAP.
Okay.
And then also,
Yeah, I
think
know this has
Cindy
been a
and
sticking point.
Yeah, any of the staff and Cindy, I think, are always happy to sit down with folks over the phone and work through problem solving on some of them as well. Yeah.
Erin?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's hard to tell who's council.
I know, I have another question if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, great. So how do we know what keywords you searched for?
I will tell you. I will email. See, I'll go in. You guys can still see the next request page, correct? And I'm going to say, I'm going to go, I'm going to do a search. I need to tell everybody. I'm going to message staff. You all in this, say this IPRA is asking for counselor emails. And I'm going to go to the top where the icons are, the little caption bubbles. I'm going to go here, message staff. And I'm going to say, dear staff, in response.
You don't have to write the whole thing, Cindy. Just
okay, I'll just say, in response to this IPRA, I am going to do an IT email search with the keyword Midtown. Please advise if you have, if you have anything that you think will help me in fulfilling this request.
Well, so do you want us to offer you other searches, or do you want us to do other searches?
No, 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 no.
I
No,
mean,
I don't want
offer
you to
other
do any search.
keywords?
No, I just want you to and not be like, well, gee, she really should be. And I'm not saying I want you to rack your brain. I just want you to say to me, or you know, you might talk to each other and go, gee, she really should be doing a search for Saint
Okay, so
Mike's or
that's the
homeless
question.
or
So do you want, so you want us to email you back and say, use these keywords in addition to the keywords you
right.
use?
And this isn't to give me 5 times as much work. This is if you really think there's another keyword that will be helpful. And if you do think this, then you click on those little bubbles again and you say, hey, Cindy, I think you should do a keyword search for this word too.
Okay, and then my next question is, if we had Adobe Pro and could do the nifty trick of turning an email file into a PDF, and there are either emails within that PDF that need to be redacted in whole or in part, can you do that from the PDF? Do you got it? Are you all? I mean, it's not. You have the ability to change that PDF.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that without Adobe Pro, individual emails can still be turned into PDFs. It's just that whole folder thing, which is very convenient to do a mass number.
Yeah. The problem is, you know, the volume that I'm sure the IPRA team understands that sometimes we're dealing with, especially if people are writing to us on a particular issue. For us as counselors with no personalized staff to sit and try to upload each email individually is really a tall task. So having this ability to create an email file and convert it to a PDF and send it all as one would increase our capacity. Thank you.
I know back in May when we first got Next Request, this stumped me and I was just like, I don't know. And I know I talked to Sig and it was like, I can't do what you're asking me to do. And I didn't know I don't know what happened with that, but it was not good. So you all need Adobe Pro. Yeah.
Great. Did you have another question, Councilor Romero-Worth? Okay, your hand's still just. Okay, Cindy, let's move on to I think we've got like a last couple things we wanted to show. Is there anything before the dashboard?
Yeah, here we go. Here we currently have 51 open requests. We have closed 2,290 since May. We have had 15,903 documents uploaded. That means responsive documents we've sent out to requesters. They have downloaded 15,000, almost 16,000. Average business, which could be improved. We're supposed to do it in 3. You can see how many we've closed. That's the green area. Here you can
Sorry? In terms of what we're supposed to do, we get a lot of broad and burdensome requests, right? And those are supposed to be done in a reasonable amount of time. I mean, when a request is for thousands and thousands of emails, then we're just supposed to do it in a reasonable period of time, right? And you spend a lot of time going through thousands of emails to see if there's anything in there that we don't want to release someone's social security code out into the public or publish their birth date. And so that takes a lot of time and you guys are very thorough. So I don't want you to undersell what you've been doing.
Thank you. That's my habit to undersell. It's a bad habit. Okay. So here, custom range. I can select, I don't know if you want me to do this. I can select a time period in the last week. What are we here? The 5th through the 12th. We've gotten, anyway, we got 97 from January 21st to January 30th. Median days to close 3. That's perfect. This down here below shows you that the great majority of requests that we get are for the police records. It's like everything else is
Counselor, did you have
next
something
to.
you wanted to ask right away, or do you want to?
I'm sorry, what?
I saw Counselor Vehil-Coppler had her hand up.
Shall I ask my question now?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to know about the deadlines for these requests.
Mm-hmm.
So my recollection is that we get, with the request to us, there's an email that says, I think there's a deadline. And then we get another one that says the deadline's extended.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, at least I get another email that says, you passed your deadline, even though I already submitted something. So I don't know, because I don't memorize the case numbers. I don't know if it's the same one or is it a different one or what is it, so.
You can ask me because I, say you've responded with a document or you've said, I don't have anything. I should, but I don't always remove you as staff.
Oh, okay.
So
So
that's why you're
for
still
example,
getting these obnoxious emails. Just call,
okay.
ask me, email me and say, Cindy, why am I still getting this? Please remove me.
So let's take the Midtown request right now.
Okay.
I did want to find out what that was. So I saw that and I thought I read something like it was sort of open-ended. And then I got an email saying the deadline is coming up, although the deadline was yesterday, I think. So that's another one that I don't understand. When I went into the request itself, or is that because it's a 15-day rule?
Okay.
No matter if the requester says you have all the time in the world to do this, which I think that one kind of alluded to, but then all of a sudden we do have a deadline, not what the requester said. But is
Okay,
that
none of them will ever say we have all the time in the world. Do you want me to go?
I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But
Do you want me to go into that request? Are we done with this one?
No, you don't have to do that.
Okay. Well, automatically, you're right.
What I heard you say that's helpful is that you don't always take the responder off, so we keep getting an email.
Right, because I get busy and I don't cross my T's and dot my I's, and I don't remove you from the request, which I should, because then you keep getting emails.
Well, I think there's something more I have to do is what happens to me. And then I don't do it. Because I think maybe it's wrong. I don't know. Okay.
Well, unless I don't understand something, Tanya or Justine may have input on this. I think it's because I don't remove you as staff. I'm not sure.
I see Justine's hand, but I think there's multiple layers. It sounds like, and it's because it's not automatic. We can't automatically take the person who's returned their records off. I think you have to, there's an evaluation of whether or not, is this everything we need, or is there something else we might need from that person? So that we might want to clarify that before we take someone off to get reminders. Justine, did you have some more to add to that?
Well, I was just going to say in regards to like the due dates, and I'm not 100% on it, but I think there's an original 3-day due date, so 3 business days, but then Cindy can determine whether or not, the counselors need additional time, and then she can extend it another 15 days. So maybe that's why you're getting multiple emails.
Yeah. Right. And I may have extended that even a month. I'll do it after this meeting to double check, but I should have extended it a month because it's a huge request.
Yeah, so the three layers are the 3 business days is kind of the automatic, but if we do need more time, we have to let the requester know. So there's a required communication at that point, and then we can have up to 15 days, calendar days. The first one is a business day deadline, the next one's a calendar day. And then but then at some point during that 15-day period, we may discover that the request is broad and burdensome. Sometimes we'll know from the get-go. If they just say, I want every permit for the last 3 years about something, we'll know from the beginning, like this is broad and burdensome. It's going to take us a long time to make sure that we can provide all this documentation and upload it and everything. But other things, Cindy might not know at the beginning that something's broad and burdensome because all the
I don't
emails,
know.
right? She doesn't know. She's not in every department of the city, sitting on everyone's shoulder, knowing what's going on. So sometimes it's a surprise that, oh, there's actually a lot of documents on this issue. And once we start getting them back, we realize how much time it's going to take to go through them and redact them. And at that point, she makes the determination it's broad and burdensome, and then has to extend the deadline in order to compensate for that. I see Councilor Rivera's hand.
Thank you. Cynthia, I just tried to log on to Midtown. It says my account isn't active. And really up until Midtown, I hadn't been included on all the IPRA requests. So
Oh yeah,
not sure it's something.
that was my fault. Renee brought that up. Thank you. She brought that up that, like I said, I have all the departments, I think, and I had your name under the city councilor department and somewhere, and I don't know why this happens. Sometimes people's email accounts get deactivated. But now you are active and included in this IPRA. I'm sorry, what was your question?
So I just tried to log on now and it said my account is not active. So I did, 2 days ago, I did submit all my emails. I think I submitted all my emails, but I can't get on to find out if I did or not.
It sounds like you might need to create a new account, Councilor Rivera, if it deactivated your email in relation to the next request software for some reason. And I don't know why that would be, but
Counselor, I could resend you the link and we could get you set up. After this meeting, I'll send you something that way you have direct access to it. And all of us, Cindy, Justine, and I, Julie as well, we have access. So if you are having issues with anything, we have admin access. So we could reboot your account. We could send you a link to reset your password and all of that.
So are you able to tell if 2 days ago all the emails that I sent were attached?
You would have had to upload them into Next Request.
Yes, I did. I was allowed access 2 days ago, but not now.
Yeah, I can look into that.
Deactivated again. I don't know why.
okay. So could you guys check on the counselor's upload, and then probably for any others? I think we're probably over time a little bit here. I think they're happy to help with any individual situations, and it sounds like we'll have some software improvements for everybody soon. It might ease the process. Are there any other questions for the IPRA team while we have them here? Oh, yep, we do. Okay, sorry. I don't know who's went up first, Villarreal or Cassett Sanchez.
Mine is just real quick. I think I was a little bit before Jamie. So are we assuming, just to make sure I understand, that Cindy's or staff is already facilitating an email search on a topic, and that we just add any potential other either items that may have gone to our personal email for some reason, or
I think no assuming, only if she says she has. So she'll put in her request, I am doing the following email search. There might be some where she doesn't even know what term to use. Because it might say something like related to when I got, like we get weird police report requests. It's like when and it says I and the requester got pulled over at this time. And then like the police department has to like figure out what that even means. Or we call the requester and try to get more information because they didn't give us an actual report number. But the same thing could happen with other requests too, where it's not totally clear what the keyword should be. So I would look at what she said, see what search she has described. If she hasn't described a search, maybe get back to her and say, are you going to do an email search? What is it going to be? That type of thing. But don't assume anything, but I do think just keeping that line of communication open will be really helpful.
Okay. And in the case of Midtown, because Cindy, you listed all these numbers of emails that you found that were related to Midtown.
Right.
I think you kind of covered your bases there. There was a lot. So I don't know. I don't know what else to search for other than what you found.
Well, I don't think you should rack your brain and try to make it like your homework to come up for a new search term. If one pops to your mind and goes, oh yeah, this obviously should be, this is relative to Midtown, even though it's not the word Midtown. Let me know about those.
Okay.
Those hundreds and thousands of emails that I dug up already, that was with the word Midtown only.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
And I think we got Counselor Cassett Sanchez.
Thank you. And I think this actually, that conversation probably clarified my question. I was looking at the Midtown example as well. It initially said that there was, the search term was Midtown Campus Development. So I'm assuming that if you had searched that, that exact phrase would have needed to be in there. Is that correct?
That was a case where I just jumped in and I didn't think it through before I sent off an email to you all. I initially thought I was going to do an IT email search for the term Midtown Development, blah, blah, 3 words, whatever. And then when I did the IT search, I thought, no, this isn't good. So I just shortened it to the word Midtown. And that's why I sent you a subsequent internal message to all of you saying, that's wrong. I'm just doing the IT email search with the word Midtown. Forget what I said prior.
Okay, because yeah, so it sounds like that would be the exact term that would have been searched.
Right, because the 3 words was too specific.
Okay, yeah. That was all. Thank you for clarifying.
Aaron, your
You
voice.
turn to Darth Vader.
Your voice.
Sorry. Aaron will be back. I think, counselors, if you don't have any other questions, we can move on to the next section, or if there's any additional ones, be happy to facilitate getting responses to them individually. Does anyone else have anything that they want to run over? No, I know, I'm sure Aaron will say, and I most definitely will say, is that we process, and Erin might have these stats, so I'll let her jump on also, but the number of IPRAs we process at the city of Santa Fe is about half of what the city of Albuquerque processes, and our staff size is literally a fraction of it. So really,
I don't know if it's half, but it's definitely a larger proportion. Like you cannot compare our population to Albuquerque and proportionally increase the number of IPRAs. It's significantly higher. For whatever reason, we have a more engaged populace, and who's more engaged in government, I guess, or and more aware of IPRA, perhaps. Something. We're getting more IPRAs than other cities that are much larger. So. Big kudos to the team that's been working on this, and then the implementation since May. So it gives us a much better idea, and it gives the public a much greater access, because all of these documents, like they said, the 15,000 documents that have been downloaded, that might not even be everything that's been uploaded by staff, because not everything is downloaded that is uploaded. So thank you all for joining us today.
Yes.
Mike,
well,
Tanya.
Just one more point on that.
Yep.
Sorry, that I also wanted to mention is that we've been able to actually now collaborate between the PD IPRAs that we hadn't previously. But as Erin mentioned, a big transparency piece for Next Request is that the counselors or any member from the public can actually go to the portal and see any IPRA that's been fulfilled and also download any documents. So in some cases, we're able to just reference a different IPRA, but really that's a huge transparency piece for us. And I think due to this software, we're understanding in a more total picture exactly how many IPRAs we're receiving, and the data dashboard that Cindy shared with us has really been helpful for our team kind of to see exactly where IPRAs are and the volume in which we're receiving them. So just wanted to
on that too, Christine. So as we get other things online, we're able to use the IPRA software to direct folks to the other records we have online too, so that if it's already searchable and accessible on the website, they don't have to submit an IPRA. We can just have them access that information from another section. So for example, for InterGov, I believe if you put in certain keywords now on that search box, it says if you have an InterGov account, you can also get this information there. So for certain folks that are using that, so that's kind of a cross initiative benefit between land use and the next request as well. Councilor Villarreal.
Thank you. Just a clarifying point. Is it possible for Cindy to let us know when she actually does an email search?
You mean the date she does the search, or the date range, or which one?
No, just that she is actually, they're scouring our emails for a search for a certain topic already. Like the only reason why I assumed that the Midtown, she was doing that is because she gave us numbers of the number of emails that she was able to locate. And so that to me, I had to think, oh, I guess she already did that. But can Cindy, can you actually let us know if you do that search? And then we'll know if we need to do more follow-up on a topic. Is that possible?
Yeah. I don't really understand why, why are you kind of saying mine leaves off and you need to pick up somewhere? I mean,
I think it's just to make sure we're covering our bases, Cindy. So like we need to know what you've done so that they know whether or not there's anything outside of that search that they have, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Cindy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And we can work on standard language if you want to do that. I think that might be helpful too.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks everybody for coming on the IPRA team. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
So we'll transition over to the Primegov demonstration, and a similar, if anyone has any questions in between, Jesse, I think you're going to do a brief overview and then have a short presentation for questions.
Thank you. I feel like this is timely because there were some issues that came up during the meeting on Wednesday. So I'm going to start by just addressing those. There were 3 issues that I noticed. The first was that some of the attachments during the meeting were unavailable, and that was a server issue with Primegov, and that was resolved in a fairly short time period, I think. So that was number 1. Number 2 is that I know some people have been having trouble with the document viewer timing out, especially when they're in there for a long time, maybe during when it's a long discussion item. And I mistakenly told a couple of you that had been fixed in an update from Primegov. What I failed to see is that the update actually goes into effect today. So hopefully after today, that will not be an issue anymore. But if it does happen, please let me know so that I can raise that issue with Primegov. Lastly, the issue that Councilor Villarreal mentioned was that when you go into an attachment, you have that ability to make annotations and notes. However, they don't save. So if you then close out of that attachment, they're not there when you go back, which completely defeats the purpose of that feature. So I raised that with Primegov as well. They realize that's a bug and they're working on fixing it. So those are the 3 issues from Wednesday. So I'm just going to hopefully zoom through this presentation quickly.
Jesse, real quick on that, I was having issues Wednesday as well. I took a screenshot and sent it to Christine. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, that was the issue with the attachments and the Primegov server being slow. Supposedly another city was trying to upload an exceptionally large packet, and it slowed everything down.
All right, so if it's that red line message, that's what it is.
Yeah, so they were able to fix that fairly quickly.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so forgive me for the cheesiness. It is a little cheesy. A long time ago in a city far, far away, they used to use paper packets for everything. All of the committees, 44 city committees, almost 50 committees, all used paper packets. Well, obviously it wasn't a long time ago, and it was the city of Santa Fe. We used paper packets for everything. And I'm not sure if anyone really understood how much paper that used, but I looked at 7 committees. I looked at 3 of the land use boards, the 3 standing committees and governing body to see on average how many pages were used per packet. So as you can see here, land use boards are typically pretty large. Governing body can be 700. Sometimes it's more when you have large contracts, you have bonds or LEDA projects. And so total for one meeting of these 7 committees equals about 16,000 pages. They typically meet 2 times per month. You're talking 32,000 pages, which equals about 65 reams of paper. We all know what a ream is. It's 500 pages, but what does that actually mean? Is it a lot? It seems like a lot. It's 6.5 boxes of paper, if you know what a box of paper looks like. But what does that mean in real terms? So 16 reams of paper is equivalent to 1 tree. 1 tree that you cut down to make paper, 16 reams. So 1 month for those 7 committees, you're chopping down about 4 trees, about 50 trees per year we were chopping down and turning into paper for those 7 committees. As you can see, a ream of paper for the city, since we buy in bulk, is about $3.15 a ream. So it's not a huge financial cost. It's about $2,500. But again, that's only for 7 committees. Right now in our list, there are 44 committees in the city. So there's still 37 that are unaccounted for. Now, granted, they don't use nearly the amount of pages that most of those other committees do, but I think we can safely say that with all of our committees, you can double the numbers that we have here. So we were using 100 trees a year, costing about $5,000, not including ink, other materials, and staff time to compile the packets. So let me go back, not that yet. So it really was a digital transformation with our agenda management system. We used Granicus previously. Some of the committees did, not all of them, but that really didn't negate the need for the members of the committees to have paper packets. It was more of an internal organizational tool. So with our new agenda management system, we've gone completely digital. No packets are printed, and we're saving a lot of trees. It's a very environmentally friendly way of conducting business. Which brings us to the next slide, which is electronic signatures. Efficient, environmentally friendly, secure and accessible. And the Legislative Services Office implemented electronic signatures in spring of 2019. So that was a full year before the pandemic necessitated that city business be conducted with electronic signatures. So I'm proud of that fact. And on that note, I do want to mention that I had sent an email to all of you about getting your actual signatures uploaded into Adobe so you can use those. I've worked with a few of you. I've had the mayor's since 2019. So I really would like to get all of you using your actual signatures in Adobe Sign. It's a fairly painless process. I thank Councilor Cassett-Sanchez for being the guinea pig. It's a little more difficult to do it remotely than standing over your shoulder, but I would like to do that. So after this, I'll send out another email for those of you who have not done that to please give me half an hour at the most to set that up for you. So Primegov is just one of the digital transformation aspects of the city that we've seen. Energov is one, Next Request is another. The CRM that Isabella is going to talk about is a third or fourth, I guess. So we're really talking about efficiency, accuracy, standardization for the agenda specifically, transparency. The public is able to access the information much easier. It's a modernization, and then accessibility for the public, for staff, as well as the members of the committees, mayor and the councilors. So that's all I have on my presentation. I wanted to quickly, I think there are maybe 5 or 6 of you that use the internal version of Primegov on a regular basis. I just want to, for those of you that don't, I just want to sort of give a brief outline of the benefits of doing that. And Councilor Villarreal, I'm going to give you another way that you can have notes saved so they don't disappear. So when you log in, you come to the dashboard, you go to Meeting Viewer, and I'm logged in as a counselor, so I have the exact same view that you do. You'll click on the meeting that you want to look at. We have all these upcoming meetings also, so if you wanted to go and look at Finance Committee for next week, you can go ahead and do that. going to go ahead and click in here.
By the way, Jesse,
Yes.
when I click on that right now, it says waiting,
Okay.
just so you know.
Okay. So here they have the agenda for today, and you'll see that we already had this. I went and did this earlier. We have this motion and second to approve the agenda. So that's in here. We can even go in and look at what the vote was. You see, none of these actually have attachments. I added this one just for demonstration purpose. So if we go into this one, which is the active item right now, you can click on the attachment and we'll show it up here. You have a couple options, and actually, since the annotation feature isn't working right now, the other thing you could do is download the attachment and take the notes on your personal device. That would work as well. Alternatively, you can open it up. Let me get this other way. In the viewer, and it will load. And we can change this a little bit. And so you can view all of the documents here. And ideally, you would be able to use this annotate feature to take some notes here. You could highlight that, make a note there. When this is working, and I will certainly let you know when they have fixed it, you can save the annotations and then close out of this. And when you come back, you would hit load annotations and they would pop back up. So I'll certainly let you know when they've fixed that little bug. But in the meantime, if you do want to take notes on this item, what you can do is go over here to notes, click new note. And save that. And then it pops up a note down here. So then this will save. And so when you come back during the meeting, you have these notes here. You can even do another one. And so you have multiple notes here. So you could, for each question that you have, you could insert them there. Before I move on to the next, there are two other quick parts I want to talk about. Are there any questions about this particular part?
Which do you click on to see notes? Oh, notes. Oh, right. Okay, gotcha.
Do my little highlighter thing. Notes up here on the top right.
Okay, thank you.
And Jesse, how do you save those notes?
If you create a note, you just hit save. It'll save it here, and it will also pop it up here.
And who sees those?
Only yourself. These are saved under your profile. So not under, it's not public or anything like that.
I don't see the save button because all the pictures were blocking it. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Over here on the right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this before I move on?
Yes, Jesse.
Yes.
I use notes all the time, and it's the only saving grace feature. But what I'm trying to figure out, if we can't use annotations inside the actual document. For example, when I was looking at those notes and trying to figure out, like maybe cutting and pasting what was in the attachment so that I could actually move it to notes so that I could make more notes on there, if that makes sense. And I don't see a feature to do that, to actually go into the attachment and then copy and paste something in the attachment.
Since it's a PDF, I don't know that you can copy and paste it from there. So I don't know that that's an option.
Okay.
Right now.
All right. And then the other thing is you said to download if you can't open it.
So if you go into attachments, you have the eyeball and you have this download. So you can download the attachment, and then if you have Adobe Pro, you can go to edit. And you can make notes on here.
Which we don't, so.
Right, but you will. Okay.
And then just to my point about clicking on, if you could just explain why that happens if we click onto a certain meeting, and it just says waiting. and you can't actually open it? That happens a lot. to
I
me.
don't know why that's happening. I'll have to ask their support about that.
Jesse?
Yes.
That was happening to me, you might recall, and what it was is that I hadn't signed out, I guess, from the last sessions, and it just was messing up. So you told me to log all the way out and then sign in again. And including off Safari my Safari, and then sign in again, and then it worked. So
Okay.
Councilor Villarreal, you might try that.
I always do. It doesn't work.
Okay.
I really do need to fix that feature. I just sent you, Jesse, a screenshot of what happens. So for instance, right now, I'm trying to get back to the meeting agenda, this meeting agenda, because I went and looked at the finance agenda, and it's not letting me back to that agenda. It just keeps, it's as though I'm, the staff, and it says active motion and everything's waiting.
Okay.
And would you like to move this motion? So I can't get back to the thing, and it's I don't know, problematic.
Okay.
It happens a lot.
Okay, I'll ask them, because that's actually not, that's a display view, which I don't even know how you'd have access to that. But I'll ask them, because I've never had it happen, so I'm not sure why that's happening.
It happens all the time.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, any other questions on this?
I don't know if you're going to go into it, but are you going to talk about how you print? Like, let's say there's a memo in the packet that you want to have in a paper form. And you don't have to print the whole packet, the whole 700-page packet.
The easiest would be to well, I mean, the packet really shouldn't ever be 700 pages. It should be split up into the different parts, so that way you can just print the memo. So that would be, that's what we're working on getting staff to do, and they've been doing a good job of breaking it up into the different parts. As you can see with legislation, for example, we have the memo, we have the resolution or bill, we have the FIR, we have any attachments, we have public comment, we'll have the action sheets up there, all as separate attachments, so that you can view whatever you want, so that you don't have to open up a 700-page document and try and search for what it is you're looking for.
No, but even so let's say we want to just print that agenda. So you go to the little I, and then go to view, and then see that little download button right there on the right. Then you download that, and you say, yes, I want to download, and I have no idea where it downloads to, but see that download button on the left?
Are you on your iPad?
Nope, I'm on my computer.
It should download.
And then it'll say save, and you say save, and then from there you can print it. You can just, yeah. Because otherwise, if you try to print, it'll print like just a quarter of the page. But I think that's an important process that we all may want at some point. Like if you want to print the staff memo on a particular agenda item.
You can also just download it directly from here. You don't need to go into the viewer and download it. So if I click download here, it does the exact same thing and downloads it right here.
Okay, good. Saves a step or two.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, anyone else? And as you notice, Jeff went in and activated this item. So when you're in the internal view, you'll, if you have to get up and use the restroom, or you need to get a drink of water, you can come back and see, okay, we're still on the item, or oh, we moved to the next item. And then you also see, as the votes are inputted, you'll see those pop up here. So you can go back and see what the vote was, or who made the motion, all that. All right, if there are no other questions, I'll move on to the benefits for the public. So this is the public portal. This is what's published each week with all of the meetings. You can see here that we have the governing body workshop on here. Let me just refresh the page quickly. Hopefully, there we go. So you'll see that we have this meeting is live, and if you see up here on the internal view, when we start the meeting, this live button pops up here. This pops up on the public portal. I also went in and linked the YouTube video right at the beginning. So if I click on this, it's going to pop up the YouTube video. And look, there we are. So people can access the video directly from there. If they want to watch it, they don't need to go in and try and find the link on the agenda or go to YouTube and search for it. They can find it right there. And then they have everything available here for the agenda. There's obviously not much on here. And we also have this linked here as well. If we go down to one of our previous meetings, we go to the agenda from the 10th. Let's say someone watched this meeting and they wanted to hear let me do a different one. Hold on. Let's say they wanted to see, let's do this one. They wanted to hear about this one. If they click play here, it jumps them directly to that portion on the YouTube video. So they don't have to listen to 3 hours of a YouTube video trying to find out when this particular item was being discussed. So that's just we're able to put bookmarks in and attach them to the YouTube video so the public can more easily access a particular item they're looking for.
Jesse, on that page?
Yes.
What's the difference between someone clicking on the HTML versus?
The HTML agenda and packet are, as far as I can tell, exactly the same. And then if you click on this, we have the PDF packet as well.
Okay.
The last thing I wanted to show, and actually I'll show it for today, is if we click on the HTML agenda for today, we have this, and Christine mentioned this, we have this at a previous meeting, we have this translate feature. So we can go down here. Spanish is probably going to be the most popular one used. We can hit Spanish and it automatically and instantaneously translates the agenda into Spanish. So that's a very helpful feature, I think. And then we can just go back to English. Any questions on the public facing part? Or Aaron, is there anything I missed?
Jesse, just curious, I think those bookmark pieces to the video are awesome. Are there captions on those videos?
Yeah, because the captions are saved to YouTube, so
okay,
they will show up. Now, just as a note, we're not doing closed captions for every meeting. We're limiting it to governing body, the city council standing committees, the land use boards, and then there are a couple of the advisory ones that we felt it would be helpful for the immigration committee, because we'll soon have the ability to do Spanish captions, the mayor's committee on disability for obvious reasons, and then the community health, your task force, CHS task force. So those are the ones that are receiving closed captions.
Jesse?
Yes.
Councilor Lindell here. You said previously that you were signed in as a counselor.
Yes.
You're clicked in now from the city website.
This website up here, sanfe.primegov.com/public/portal, is the public portal. So this is where the public goes to access the agenda. So this part up here on the left and the top, they won't have. Their page will start sort of right here, but it's because I have an account and I'm signed in that this shows up.
Okay.
So the general public won't have this option.
Yeah, is that a easy click in from the city website?
Yeah, this is the link that the clerk's office publishes for all of the meetings. When Geraldine or Xavier send out the email each Friday, which you'll get in a few hours most likely, they will send a link to this exact website for all of the meetings of this week. As you can see, some of them are published later on. Planning Commission, publishes their agenda further out, so that's already up here and available for the public.
So when you go to the city website and you go to hot topics and you go to weekly meeting list, is that where they can find the easy click through to that?
So if we go
Yes.
to,
Oh, Jesse, do you want?
Counselor, it's actually on our homepage, because
Yeah.
that's the easiest way I go to it. It's, you click on that gray bar,
Yep.
takes you to that page where Jesse's at. And I actually access all of our meeting materials through the HTML packet, very accessible. I know that we've had challenges with Primegov in the past, and if you are having challenges, I would recommend going this route, because I've never had any challenges accessing meeting materials going through the public route.
Thank you, Garcia,
Yeah.
for that. Go ahead, Jesse.
the other way is if you click on hot topics, you have agenda and packet material right here.
And there's a click through there to, I got it. I want to be able to direct people to that. Thank you.
On that point, if we go through this route through the city website, then we wouldn't be able to access our notes and things that we added to our own personal portal.
Correct. If you're using the notes feature and the annotation tools within Primegov, then you're not going to be able to access those using the public portal. You need to access it through the meeting viewer.
Got it.
Any other questions on this part? The last thing I wanted to touch on was just a future feature that we are going to be getting, which is a committee manager. And it's going to allow us to better track all of the members of the various committees, their terms, the various requirements for those members. So here I have EDAC pulled up, and it shows the members. We have Councilor V. Hill-Koppler as the chair. We have all the members. We have the two new members that were appointed at the last meeting, Ryan Gallagher, Joanna Nelson. They're in here. We can see that Ryan and Kate and Victoria's terms are going to be ending, let's see, at the end of May. So, we may want to start planning to advertise those positions. And once we have this committee manager feature implemented, what we can actually do is go into this particular position. Actually, not there. Although, let me talk about this first. So we can select required training. So if we need ethics training, if it's planning commission, if we have specific training required for land use boards, we can put required training in here that the members have to complete, and we'll set a default application form. If we want to start advertising this position, we can come in here, click on this, and we can advertise the position, and that'll put it up on the city's, or on the main website. If we know someone who might be interested or who would be a good fit, we can put in their email address and send that off. So that'll be a new feature coming up. It'll allow clerk's office to keep much better track of the committees and the members, as well as the liaisons for those particular members. Any questions on this part?
No, but I have a question on the last part we were in, Jesse. It's Councilor Lindell again.
Yes.
When you go back to, I'm on this from the city website, and I'm looking under meetings and agendas, and I'm going to 2020. How on there do I see the video of a meeting?
Remind me, how did you get there? Did you click on hot topics, or you got to it from here?
Yeah, I went hot topics.
Okay.
Right at the top there. Yeah.
One thing we need to change is that this is linking to a different portal. It's a search portal, so it's a little different. So this is not showing the video. So we do need to update that with clerk's office. So we'll get that fixed.
Okay, so can you show me then how you did get to where you can see the video?
Yeah, so, and let me see which one this links to. Okay, so this one down here links to the correct one. So if you click on the one in this gray bar, the meeting agendas and packets, it takes you to this public portal. And so you have the video here. If you scroll down to the archived meetings, you'll be able to access the videos here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Unless there are any other questions.
Just
Councilor
a
Villarreal?
question on the committees.
Yes.
Who has access to that?
Right. This part, I believe, is just the admins. So that, and like I said, this is not fully set up, so I don't know the specifics of it. But there will be a public accessibility part where they can view all of the members of the various committees. There's no, we can limit, we can limit it so that there's no not identifying information, but phone numbers, email addresses, all of that. We can have it so that that information is not publicly accessible.
Yeah, I think that's great. And a description of what that actual committee does.
So if we go, we already have that actually. If we go into the profile here, we have a description, which is pulled directly from the ordinance. We have the liaisons, Fabian, and then we have the eligibility of those members. And then based on the positions, we can set that eligibility. So if we go in here and look, required qualifications, member of the governing body. So this is not checked. We're not going to allow public applications because we can't. It's a member of the governing body. But if we go in here, and so it's specific requirements on the membership, and then we can allow public applications for that. So any applications that you get will need to fill whatever requirements are specific to either that committee, or certain committees have requirements for very specific positions on that committee. Like OTAB, for example, you need representatives from hospitality, tourism, etc.
Thank you. That'll be a good feature for the community to access.
All right, I don't want to take any more time unless someone else has a question. Okay, then I am done.
Thank you, Jesse.
Let's stop my share. Okay.
Thanks, Jesse. So up next is Isabella Sharp, and she will be doing a quick overview on the CRM and our data collecting process. So Izzy, don't know if you want to pop on and then do your screen share.
Christine, if you're keeping track of the attendance, Councilor Abeda informed me by text he has to jump off for a few minutes. So if you're noting who's here and who's not here, he's stepped away for a few minutes to take care of some business.
Yes, I will note that, Mayor. Thank you.
Can everyone see the city website on their screen?
Yes, thank you, Izzy.
Perfect. Okay, so we're just gonna go over constituent services and how we are going to introduce the CRM system and kind of give the capabilities and the benefits to using the CRM system. So in April of 2020, the Office of Constituent Services went live with a brand new CRM system. So if you go to the City of Santa Fe website, we have our call out boxes here, so you can just go to report and request. And I'm gonna kind of just give an overview of us, how you enter in a work order, and then I'll share a PowerPoint with you just so you can kind of know on either my end or on the public's end how they go in and they report a work order. So through the CRM system, we have different type of categories here that the public can choose from. So today we'll just say, we'll go with road maintenance, and maybe there is a pothole that needs to be filled. So with also just to highlight on every request, Constituent Services has worked really hard with all the different departments to kind of gather and collect what type of questions they need in order to help the field workers really collect what they need and what supplies they need when they go out and do the job. So we have different questions for each report, whether it's a pothole or maybe it's graffiti, or maybe it's something to do with parks and trails. So there's different questions for each category. So back to this, we'll go to potholes. One of the questions we have is if it's paved or if it's a dirt or gravel road. Just to kind of add some fun and excitement to our CRM system, we kind of ask what size of pizza it is. So we'll just go with a large pizza today. We ask them to please describe where the pothole is, so that way staff knows when I provide this to them. So we'll just say pothole on Siler Road by the and then here you just have to type in the location. You can really zoom in, and this is a really cool feature we have, because maybe for a different request, maybe it's specifically towards a house, or if it's an open space, or maybe it's in the arroyo somewhere specific. So you can really pin it there. Constituents are also able to upload an image that can be attached to their work order. You can type in your name, your phone number, an email is preferred. This is the best way for constituent services to be able to communicate from start to finish what your work order status is in. And then I'll also show you the dashboard, which is also really beneficial for your constituent. So for today, I'm going to say no, that I am not submitting this on behalf of a constituent. So we'll go ahead and click submit. And then this kind of just populates and shows the constituent that their work order has been submitted. So I just really want to highlight here that through the CRM system, we're working really hard to gather the best data about these type of concerns that we receive, and how to evolve and how to be efficiently diligent with the different departments and how we handle each work order that comes into constituent services. We've worked really hard over the last year and a half to develop a process that helps maximize efficiencies with the different departments and with these different divisions. Constituent Services is also committed to filling a one-stop shop kind of user-friendly online reporting system for constituents to file a variety of concerns, of which you just saw that were listed. So the other thing that I want to share with you is the public dashboard. So the counselors, you all have your own dashboard as well that we have created for you, but this is the one that is for the public themselves. So once you go in and you create your work order, you can click on the dashboard. Really cool features here. It kind of gives an overall pie chart of what kind of concerns we're seeing, the overall pie chart and the percentages that come with it. How many work orders have been submitted in the last 60 days. And here you can, click on the overall status. So everything here in green with the last 500, it's thinking with the 500 and whatever work orders there were. It'll show you the percentage of overall how many were either in progress, received, or have been resolved. Over here, it will show the constituents as well, the top 5 work orders that we have in the last 60 days that are a more utilized complaint form that we have. So here we have mixed trash and recycling, illegal dumping, another category, trash and recycling, maybe your trash can or your recycling bin needs to be fixed. So those are the different type of reports we have here. We also have the counselor's district map here. So if I just want to click on road maintenance, for example, everything is color coordinated. And so you guys will be able to see where the different road maintenance requests are. And then it'll also break down the different work orders that we have here as well. So for myself, since I just created this work order, you can see that it's still in the submitted status. So that means that I have not reviewed the work order yet, and you just submitted it. Once I go in and I submit the work order, on my end, I'll change it from submitted to received, and then the constituent will also be able to they'll actually receive an email from me saying that their work order has been received, and then this color will change on the dashboard should they wish to go back and view that. A couple other things to highlight with the report and the request page is you can, we have like a kiosk, and so if you're needing to file a report on your phone, maybe you're out and about and you see something, our CRM system is compatible with smartphones too, so you can also use that there. And I'm gonna stop sharing really quick so I can pull up my PowerPoint for you. Are there any questions so far?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Isabella, this is
Yes.
Renee. I wanted to ask you about the view that you were just showing us was an internal view, right? It wasn't like the public could go on to the website and then look at the interactive one that you just showed us with the number.
This page?
Yes.
So this is actually, this is for the actual public. So we don't have as you can see, we don't have a lot of information on here. So it's not going to show, you know, that your neighbor went and filed a complaint about them not building a permit. So we really are trying to be discreet about how much information we give on the dashboard, just so there's not that type of retaliation or, you know, that type of information put out there. So it's really discreet in regards to how much information we're giving. But no, this is going to be forward facing for the public to go in and to view and to look at.
But the one that you were showing us earlier that had a lot of different data points shown, where would they find that? Would you have to submit a work order to actually see that?
No, if you go to, can you see that I switched different screens?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we come here to the report and request page, so if they did file the request, then yes, that link will come up. But if not, then there's a link on the actual report and request page for them to just go and click on. So they don't have to create a work order.
But to be able to see like all the work orders that you just showed us, do they have to actually submit one? I'm just trying to figure out how.
No, so here's the report and request actual page, and the link is right here. So they don't have to create a work order. The link is already given there. But in the message as well, once they do submit a work order, it's in the message as well. So they can get it from, and also when they do receive the email notification from me saying, you know, thank you, Renee, for submitting your work order with the city of Santa Fe. Your work order number is 1234. Here's a link to the dashboard. Constituent Services has like a whole spiel in the email that we have, and we also do attach that link to the dashboard in that email notification to the public.
Okay, the reason why I didn't see it, it wasn't, I looked at that same page and I couldn't figure out where someone would link to see this that we're seeing now, but now I see it.
Yes, it is on the homepage.
Okay. The other thing I was wondering is, I know you all try to refine the category other. So now I see two others that we get. I know others still, there's this other one that's still pretty large, and then there's the other historic district concerns, murals, outdoor lighting, illegal signs, etc. That's the other. So we're still seeing the general other being very large. So I'm wondering if we're refining that even more.
Yeah, so I'll speak a little bit about that in my PowerPoint too, but just to touch base with you about other. So every 6 months, Constituent Services kind of gathers all of the data that's being inputted into the system. So maybe we don't have a category. So I'm going to give abandoned vehicles as my example for you. So before we didn't have an abandoned vehicle work order. And so in the other category, we were seeing many work orders come in under the other category for abandoned vehicles. So every 6 months, I kind of, you know, tally, and I'm really keeping an eye on what type of requests we're receiving. And then I'm working with the different departments on what that type of work order will look like. So that way, when we do close down the CRM system for that 1 week, when we do upgrades and maintenance to the system, I'm making sure that we're incorporating those different work order requests that we're seeing over and over and over again. So for example, abandoned vehicles, again, was not a request that was put into the system, and it was a highly used work order. And so those are things that constituent services is gathering. So others kind of, there's so many random things that come into our office too. And sometimes it's just a question like, I need to pay my water bill, but they think that this is the system to put it on. So they think that the other is where they need to pay their water bill. So it's just a wide variety of different complaints that maybe these categories here don't fit what they're trying to file or what they're trying to ask.
Okay, thank you for that. That's all.
Does anybody have any other questions about this section before I move on? Okay. Okay, so I have created a PowerPoint just to present to you guys, just to kind of give an overview on the report and the request system and why it is really beneficial. So just to kind of go over again the overview and the process of constituent services. Services, I coordinate with appropriate staff. I enter in the work orders, whether it comes in by an email or whether it comes in by a phone call that we receive. And then I enter in the work order. I provide the constituent with the tracking number. I monitor every single work order. If staff has some type of note or additional information to provide to me in response to their work order, then I go ahead and I incorporate it into our CRM system and into the field notes. I really try to help centralize these requests and give a complete picture of constituent needs and concerns, as I had said. I really monitor the other category, in reference to what the public is really needing from constituent services, and maybe we don't have that type of work order created in the system. This also really helps us to coordinate with multiple departments and better communicate needs all the way around with everybody. Just to really emphasize, in order to track a request and make sure that they go sent to the correct staff members in the city, all requests should be sent directly to constituent services. We are only able to track these requests from start to finish if they are sent to us and if I can log them into the CRM system. One thing to also highlight with that note as well is whenever the governing body does send any type of email, or maybe it's a voicemail that comes my way from you guys, I do have on my back end a section where I can put the work order on behalf of an individual counselor or on behalf of Mayor Weber. So all of those work orders are being tracked individually for you and for your constituents as well. As I've said before, Constituent Services has been working diligently over the last year and a half to redevelop a process that not only helps centralize these requests, but also I've been working really hard with the departments to work on a workflow process where they can include these CRM systems into their daily workflow. I hold weekly meetings with different departments, and I do review, submit, and close work orders on a regular basis. For collecting data purposes through the CRM system, we are working to gather the best data about these types of concerns that we receive and how to efficiently handle them. In order to standardize our process, we're asking and kind of trying to look at this in a bigger picture that I'm sure you guys are very well aware of it as we are, but in many cases, multiple staff, counselors, or the mayor receiving items from the same people or multiple individuals. And this is causing a lot of confusion, redundancy, and inconsistency in constituent services response. So in some cases, the item is not being tracked or submitted to the appropriate staff members. So we really need to kind of be involved in this to allow the tracking to be more accurately. And so we're asking that maybe a simple sentence can be included in your email response that would say something along the lines, thank you for your email. I'm copying constituent services. They track many different requests and information and problem solving that we get in order to provide data and the issue of greatest concern to our residents. So we're asking that in any type of your guys' response that we can start including constituent services in your emails to your constituents. So that way, even if it's the littlest thing or just a simple question, That way we can really start to collect that data and we can really start to grasp what is needed from the city of Santa Fe. So just a couple of tools for you counselors. As you know, you all have your own very built out counselor dashboard that is very handy. And so if you don't have a login to your dashboard, or if you need some training on how the functions work, I'm very happy to schedule a meeting with you and we can, I can review everything on your dashboard with you, help you understand what everything means. And so if you don't have a login or if you do need a training, please let me know and I'm happy to set that up with you guys. You also receive a 7-day report that is generated every Friday afternoon, and I send you a very detailed report that lists, what type of issue was reported that week, what the report was generated on behalf, whether it was by the staff or the public, what the status of the work order in, and then if it is on behalf of a counselor. So this is kind of the page here that you see with the picture on the side. Just showing, how many requests have been generated on behalf of each of the counselors. Also, as I showed you on the forward-facing map, but it really goes into a lot more detail on your counselor dashboard map. The district map really pinpoints what is going on in the city. So this is really good for constituent services to be able to, look at the different times of when maybe we have a spike in weeds, or maybe we have a spike in pothole requests, or something of that nature. So that really helps constituent services kind of brainstorm with each department, when that type of season change, or when we can really look at how we can better our process and get ahead of the game before we get too behind on it. So just a little bit of some data and some numbers for you guys. I thought it was really cool, and I really want to just really put it out there for all of the different departments and all of the field workers that really go out and they go above and beyond. Putting these numbers together was really like a proud moment for the city on my end, I have to say. But from April of 2020 to today's date, when I ran the report, there were 3,044 work orders that have come into our system. 67% of those work orders have been submitted from the public. So that's really telling constituent services that the system is working and we have a community that is really engaged and they're really wanting to use our system. On a weekly average, we receive about 60 CRMs. Big highlight, last week we received 90 new CRMs. On a monthly average, we receive around 285 work orders, and the usually turnaround time for us to close out those work orders is anywhere between 2 to 5 days. So that's a really good turnaround time as staff is getting back to us and completing those work orders. In 2019, in our old CRM system, the city received 2,410 work orders. And in 2020, last year, we received a total of 3,753 work orders. And out of those 3,753, 2,645 of those were from our new system. Again, just to reiterate, those numbers, as we said in the beginning here in April of 2020 is when we went live with the new system. So part of those work orders were from our old CRM system as well. So just to highlight, the city addressed 1,300 more complaints in 2020 than in 2019. And so that is a 56% increase on our end. Just some goals that we have for our CRM. We're really trying to streamline our efforts with the department and create and implement a one-stop shop and make filtering these requests, issues, and concerns more efficient for everyone. I think, for the governing body, for staff, and more importantly, for the constituent, just so, again, we can really centralize where that work order needs to go and who it needs to go to. We generate a CRM constituent service page on our city website, and we're going to be highlighting all of our data on a monthly basis. We're doing yearly and monthly reports to the department directors so they can also see and have know what type of complaints their departments are receiving and how awesome their employees are doing with closing and addressing these work orders. And again, so to Councilwoman Villarreal, to your point, so biannually we are committed to upgrading the system with the input and ideas that come from the public and how to make our system better. So I just, again, to highlight, I do really pay attention to, what's coming into the public and, how I can make the system better. What kind of complaints or concerns are coming in? What kind of form do we not have that we do need to see, as we have a spike in these different type of requests. So every 6 months we do close the CRM system out for about a week. And then I work with the different departments on how I can incorporate a new work order, or sometimes a constituent has an idea or some input of how to make the system better or how to tweak it a little. And so their input is definitely heard. We are also now doing weekly Did You Knows on our social media, just to kind of highlight and showcase our efforts with city departments, divisions, and our hardworking staff. And we're also really trying to redevelop what constituent services look like. So we no longer want to be an office where you just have to complain. We really want to be an office that provides accurate information, and we can assist with a request and see it through from start to finish, even if it's just a simple question that comes through our office. So we are here to help instead of taking those type of complaints. I just really want to highlight here, highlight here some constituent services input from the public that we've received. So we have a regular user in our CRM system, Mr. Dan Frazier, who actually wrote a New Mexican article on the CRM system that says make a difference right here at home. So if you guys are interested in reading that article, I thought it was really awesome. I sent him a personal email and just thanked him for putting that out there to the public, as he, as I said, is definitely a regular user. So if you are interested in me sending you that article so you can look into it, just let me know. These are just a couple different exciting feedbacks from the public once they receive their resolution email from me. So some people, saying, yippee, it's resolved, the system works. Our neighborhood really appreciates your timely response. Please know that everyone I communicated with, specifically Regina, Melissa, and Sam, were outstanding. And thank you so much for your efforts. It's a relief that our whole neighborhood has a lot that's cleaned up. So we really enjoy reading those different type of email responses that we receive once we're able to resolve those requests that come to us. So how do we spread the word? This was something that had come up yesterday, which was really beneficial. And so we have, as you all know, in your counselor newsletters, in your monthly newsletter, we really highlight the CRM and how you can create a CRM request and where that link is. As I showed you, it is on our city website in the report and request drop box. We also have the drop down menu. And then if you do go to the constituent services page, our CRM system is linked there as well. We also have another really good advocate for the city of Santa Fe, Ruth Hamilton. And so she is part of the Tierra Contenta area, and she really oversees the Nextdoor app. And so she's actually taken it upon herself to post on Nextdoor a did you know that you can file a report and request tool on their Nextdoor app. Joe Abeta and I created a video tutorial on how to create a CRM system, or I'm sorry, a CRM work order. So that is actually listed on our website as well. And that's also on our YouTube. And social media. As I said, we are doing a weekly Did You Know? We also did share on social media our overall 2020 report, and 1,571 constituents from the public had reached our social media post and had commented and liked it, which that's really good. And just in closing, if you have any comments or questions, I'm happy to take the time to try and overview or answer anything you guys might have. And if not, thanks for listening.
Izzy?
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation and thank you for all the work you put in on the city's behalf. It's, as you've noted, considerable. I'm wondering, can you send the, I don't know if I need the whole packet that you have there, but I'm certainly interested in having the statistics, that page. So if that's something you can email me or all of us, if everyone's interested, that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Definitely.
Councillor Vihel-Coppler, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Thank you, Izzy, for your presentation. I was wondering, so when I get emails and respond, I usually include you, and I don't include, like, I don't think I often include constituent services. So what do you prefer, and who is constituent services in terms of who actually gets it?
Good question. You do include me. I am constituent services. And so everything that you do send to me does go into the CRM system. And so if you can just include myself, and I think just for Christine's radar, just so she knows what's going on as well, if you can just include myself and Christine.
Okay, so if I just say constituent services, then I don't have to individualize it. Okay.
Unless you feel the need, but and maybe if you want to make it more personal. I know that in your responses you do say, I am including constituent services Isabella Sharp in this email. So that's perfectly fine.
Okay, and then the next question is, so if two counselors like Jamie Cassett Sanchez and I do the same one, how does that work?
In all reality, it is on my list when we go in March to do upgrades to the system, to put it together instead of individualized, because a lot of the times, so I'll use you two as an example. Councillor Cassette Sanchez will email me first with the response to the constituent, and then a day later, then you'll go ahead and you'll send it to me. But what I do, highlight is that in my field notes that it is on behalf of both of you, or when I do have a response to the to staff out in the field, I do put that it is on behalf of District 1 counselors or District 2 counselors. But in my field notes, internally on my back end, I do know that it is on behalf of both of you.
Well, I asked because I that just means like 2 emails for you to read. And so like if I get one and I see Councillor Cassett Sanchez has responded, then I won't respond. Because I know you've gotten it and you're doing it. So, and I'm not sure what Councillor Cassett Sanchez does, but I'm just wondering, like, do you prefer both counselors to respond, or does it matter?
I am actually going to leave that up to you and what works best for you. Like I said in my PowerPoint, just to kind of standardize our process, in many cases, these constituents are emailing you individually or emailing the mayor individually instead of both of you together. And so I do think it is really helpful, again, using you two as an example, that you two include each other in your guys' responses, so you both know what's going on in your district, because a lot of the times I'm receiving a couple different emails from a couple different counselors with their different responses to that constituent. So I'm going to leave that up to the counselors and how they feel individually about their constituents, and if they want to include their other elected official in their email response.
Okay, well, Councillor Cassett Sanchez and I talked about this some time ago, and we agreed we would co-copy each other. So I think that's working okay.
It's perfect.
Okay.
It's helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know if anyone else had any other questions, but I do just want to note that Izzy doesn't often brag on herself, but she is amazing. And honestly, she has just really revamped this entire process. As she noted in her slideshow, I mean, we've had a 56% increase in CRMs, and Izzy is processing them and handling them out. Just her work with departments and divisions, we constantly get compliments on how much easier it's been to add those requests into the workflow. She shared a handful of the compliments we get, but I mean, really, when I first started, I used to get so many emails that said I haven't heard or this didn't get done. And now there's so many that thank Izzy for just getting the work done. And you can see by the closeout and by the numbers, I mean, the data really speaks for itself. But I do just want to say that I know Izzy doesn't often really oversell what she does, and she's really phenomenal. She's the primary person on all of the CRMs, and I myself send everything to her. I'm like, Izzy, I just want to double check. Is this in? Did I log this right? Did you get this? But it's been really helpful, really helpful to centralize everything through the CRM and the reports that the departments are getting monthly. I know each of you get a weekly summary from Izzy. It's all been really beneficial for us. And the last thing I think that's been really helpful is we've actually been able to see where in some cases, like there was littering in one area, but it's because a fence was cut in a different area, and Izzy will actually, bring the two departments together, have a meeting with them, let them know what's going on, and they've been able to work together. So she definitely sets up a million in between meetings just to kind of help connect everyone and say, I noticed we've been getting these litter complaints. I think it's because ESD had this going on over here, and can we combine them? And also, can we meet with Keep Santa Fe Beautiful to get a pickup, to do a community cleanup? And just so really, it's been amazing over the last year to see that. But I know we also have a lot to still cover in our workshop, so I won't keep that too much more. But I also do want to note, and I think Jen is probably still on, that Jen actually, through her skills with ArcGIS, was able to build the CRM system. And so it's been amazing because we can modify it and really do all of that. So Jen used her skill set in ArcGIS to really help with the custom CRM. It saved us a ton of money and time and helped us really build something that works just for us. So I, of course, want to brag on my team because they just are amazing. So thank you both so much. Yes. Yes. And then we will move on to the next item in the discussion. Thank you both, Jen and Izzy, for all of your efforts. And Councilor Romero-Worth and Attorney McSherry, I believe, Aaron, there you are. I'll let you guys take back over for the next item on the discussion.
Sure. Thanks, Christine. So the next item is our annual review of parliamentary procedure. So this is something that's contemplated in our ordinances as an annual conversation. And actually over a week ago, Councilor Romero-Worth and I talked about what would be some helpful topics. So they don't necessarily include everything that came up on Wednesday this week, but I did try to address some of those concerns in my email last night and materials, but we can certainly talk about those as well after we talk about the 4 topics that we had planned to cover today. Parliamentary procedure is a broad area, includes not just Robert's rules, but actually quite a few other governing documents beyond Robert's rules. So I'm going to share my screen. And so we tried to identify some timely areas that could be helpful and ideally resolve some of the, I think, some of the issues that had come up before this week that we thought there's maybe an easy fix for in terms of limiting confusion and streamlining our processes. So actually, it's like you can't start the presentation before you share, but once you share, it's not in the right format. Okay, here we go.
Christine, just for the record, Councilor Abeta is back with us.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, are people seeing the presentation screen?
Yes, Aaron,
Okay,
the
sorry.
presentation.
Okay, great. Okay, so the 4 areas we were going to talk about are just overall what is involved in parliamentary procedures and when does Robert's rules apply, standardizing main motions, amending the main motion, and calling the previous question. So we thought these would be particularly helpful, and I think it'll be clear why as we move along. So parliamentary procedure actually includes all of these things. Robert's rules, the law of British Parliament, that obviously does not apply to us, but that is parliamentary procedure. Procedural rules of the governing body are part of our parliamentary procedure. The most encompassing definition is the rules and precedents governing the procedures of deliberative assemblies and other organizations. So for the city of Santa Fe, we actually have to consider constitutional constraints and cases interpreting them, state statutes such as the Open Meetings Act, our city charter, which establishes, for example, our chairperson. So we don't look to Robert's rules to figure that out, whereas other organizations might. City ordinances regarding legislative procedures. So we do have Chapter 2, which addresses what legislation must be called and how it's written and that type of thing. So that's our own parliamentary rule. Our procedural rules, which are adopted by resolution. I sent those out last night as a refresher. I think they're all in your governing body manuals too that you either received last year or beforehand for one of the orientations, the hard copy. They were last updated in 2016. And then they make reference to Robert's rules with regard to a few things, particularly how to handle motions. And then also custom, as long as it's consistent with other applicable rules. So bodies can start to do certain things by custom, and as long as a point of order doesn't correct them, and if they're working, that's okay. But if they're not working, then the written rule needs to govern. And then there could be more specific customs that are even just more specific than Robert's rules, which I think is what our recommendation on main motions would fall into, is that we're going to recommend a new custom that we think will be helpful in terms of keeping it very clear what's on the table at a given time. So right now, any of the following are permitted motions for main motions. Move to approve as amended by the Finance Committee or any other committee, move to approve with amendment sponsored by Councilor Garcia or any other councilor, and move to deny. So right now, those are all options, and they're being, mostly we don't move to deny right off the bat, but mostly all these options have been used recently. So these are all options right now. Our procedural rules do give guidance about main motions. So this is in the governing bodies document, and it says the main motion must be on the floor before debate can take place, and only one main motion may be on the floor at a time. The form for a main motion is I move that, and then the following. If a motion is long or complicated, a council member may request that it be in writing. A council member may give brief explanatory comments before stating the motion, but must argue and debate the motion only after it has been seconded. A movement may speak first on the motion. And all motions require a second to indicate that more than one council member is interested in discussing the issue. The seconder does not have to favor the motion and may both speak and vote against it, even if you make a second. And if there's no second, the motion dies. So those are mostly consistent with how Robert's rules deals with main motions. Robert's rules give some discretion about whether the movement may speak first, but in our case, we've specified that they may. So let's see. So the proposal is that, at least with regard to legislation, since the legislation is the type of matter that has a sponsor, right now we don't have the type of linear process that happens in the legislature between committees, and we don't have any sort of hierarchy of committees in that, one committee's adopted amendments don't hold any sort of precedence over another. So I think that's resulted in some confusion over the last couple of years in terms of what if two different committees favor two different amendments? Or what if one amendment was introduced later and a different committee didn't have the opportunity to see it yet? And then we get a motion to include certain amendments. So that's been, and that creates potentially a race between people to make motions as to which amendments will be included and not included. So to avoid that, Councilor Merriworth and I are proposing that for legislative matters, the sponsor introduces, makes that brief statement if they would like to, and or just gets the opportunity to move to adopt the legislation immediately without doing first hand up situation. And then also gets the opportunity to speak first on the matter. So the goals there are to reduce confusion and streamline discussions. All members of the governing body would have access to the matter on the table because it will be the originally proposed legislation, resolution, or ordinance. And then the amendments would then be proposed in whatever order they get moved. So then the amendments are amendments to the main motion. So I don't know if we want to have conversation on that, but that is what we're proposing, and the mayor could basically, as the chair, recognize the sponsor first whenever there's legislative matters and this type of proposal can move forward.
Aaron, I think it would be important to go through the whole presentation, and then we can take up whatever of the three topics are of interest. I just want,
Sure.
I think it's important that we get the full scope. So we don't, go down one hole that we may already be addressing in some of these slides.
Got it. Good. Okay. So that's topic 2. So we've already covered 2 of the 4. So we're doing well. And then amending the main motions. This does relate back to the prior proposal as well. With a standard main motion, so this does relate to the prior idea, all amendments and substitutes would be amendments to the main motion. So here's the example. If Councilor Villarreal moved to approve Resolution 2021-100 and Councilor Cassett-Sanchez seconded the motion, Councilor Villarreal would have the opportunity to speak in favor of the main motion. Then the next speaker may make a motion to amend the main motion as follows. Well, if the original motion has a second, obviously. I move to amend the resolution to include Amendment 1 as proposed by Councilor Rivera in Resolution 21-100. And then if that motion receives a second, then the debate would commence on the amendment to the resolution. And so that amendment to the resolution is a secondary motion or a subsidiary motion to the main motion, which is to adopt the resolution. Then each amendment would be debated in turn, and approved amendments become part of the main motion. So they essentially, they're called adhering motions because they become part of it. Then it's all one big motion. So then you have the motion to pass the legislation, and any motions to amend it become part of the main motion if they pass. So you can have a whole series of amendments to the main motion. Let's see. You can also amend an amendment, which sounds like something we probably want to avoid if possible. Yeah. But you cannot amend an amendment to amendment. It's only allowed 2 levels down. But I do recommend we try to stay away from that, if at all possible. The 4th topic we wanted to talk about was calling the question or moving the previous question, which I think can be a useful tool, but it's helpful if everyone knows how to use it on an equal basis. It can also be called moving the previous question. And it is also what is called a subsidiary motion because it can't happen unless there's already a main motion on the floor. And it refers back to the prior motion that was made or multiple prior motions, but I do also recommend that we just make it to the immediately prior rather than multiple prior I think that would be much easier to follow and more orderly. But Robert's Rules does allow it to apply to a series of previously pending questions should the mover make that motion. I recommend against it. Basically, our procedural rules and Robert's Rules recognize that actually our rules require that everyone's had the opportunity to speak before this motion or question is called. And what that means is when the person makes this motion, anyone who's had their hand up should have already have had the opportunity to speak once on a particular motion pending. It's not, you can't interrupt to make this motion, but you can make it at the end of statements in support or against a motion. So you could be recognized to speak, give your perspective on a matter, and then call the question all at the same time. So that's a possible way to do it. Or maybe you already had the opportunity to speak, you raise your hand again, and then you see that no one else has their hand up, or that anyone else who has their hand up has already spoken once on a motion. Then you can call the question, and that could be the only matter that you're raising your hand for. And basically it ends debate on the previous question or motion, which could either be an amendment, or it could be the legislation itself. It just depends on what the prior question was. The immediately preceding motion. Yep, go ahead.
Aaron, if I could just also
Yep.
clarify that in order to make that motion, you would have to be recognized.
Yes, yep. So it doesn't allow interruption of debate of that someone else's comments, and you would have to receive recognition from the chairperson. And in this case, that's the mayor. An example, same resolution, 2021, if that's pending, and councilors have begun their second round of comments on the motion. And then Councilor Beta could raise his hand, Mayor Weber would recognize him, and he could say, I call the question. And then the mayor could clarify which question was on the table. And then we would, and it's not debatable. So that means that then you don't have different people speak about whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea to call the question. You just need a second, and then it goes to a roll call, and then it's a 2/3 vote. So it does require a supermajority to pass. And that's because, well, the idea is that no more debate will be taken. So people have to feel confident that they're ready to vote. And if the vote fails on calling the question, you go back to debate on the prior question, which could either be the amendment or the main proposal. Let's see. So really, those are the 4 topics we wanted to focus on today. Some other topics we thought might be helpful in the future would be postponing versus laying on the table. My quotation marks got lost somewhere. On the other side of postponing. Points of order and questions of privilege. Points of order and questions of privilege are the types of motions one can make that can interrupt the speaker. Most motions you don't interrupt a speaker, but those are one. And I know points of order are used already in the meetings, and that's a great way to, if you think something has gone awry in terms of staying on topic or following our rules, and it could be either Robert's rules or our own rules, then a point of order is always in order. And then you can resolve it right at that moment. So that's a good way to stop anything that's happening before it goes any further and make sure we all are on the same page regarding what rule we're following and whether or not we are on track. I can stop sharing, or I can pull up any prior slides for discussion. So I think Councilor Beta had a question.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is, I know it's obviously common courtesy to say, you know, this person had their hand up first, so do they go first? Is that automatic, or can the mayor or chairperson decide who he or she calls on?
I think that's a good question. So I'm not sure we have anything in our rules that states that specifically. We could. And I can look at Robert's rules on that topic. We do have this specification that for a motion, the mayor may allow that person to speak first. So that's recognized as a practice, potential practice. It doesn't say shall. But I think the general custom is to call on people in order. It's hard to tell sometimes, I've noticed on here. I'm not sure if the hands always show up in the right. It's like on my screen right now, the order of persons with hands up has not stayed consistent, even though, so I don't know. if it is consistent for other folks. Like, yeah, the mayor just raised his hand and he just went ahead of Councilor Villarreal on my screen, which I don't know if that's what everyone else sees or not. Okay. Whereas like, so the order of hands on my screen is Councilor Vihel-Coppler, Mayor Weber, Councilor Villarreal, and Romero Worth. So I don't know if we have a way to, yeah, it's Vihel-Coppler, Weber, Garcia, so Villarreal. So it's not staying in order for me. So I don't know if it's staying in order for other folks too. Anyway, so I don't know if there's a way for us on Zoom to keep better track.
Plus, you can drag your screens wherever you want.
Well, do you know what? Mine tells me that I can't move video while someone has their hand raised, though. Does yours do that? Mine's doing that. I noticed that last meeting too.
I can still drag.
You still can. I wonder if it's because your hand is up. Hold on. So now my hand's up. But it's not letting me move people anymore. So I don't know. I can't, mine's not letting me move people when there's hands up, but we might have different permissions or versions of Zoom too.
Well, and I just ask, because if you look at other governing bodies or even like legislative, the chairs will sometimes pick who they want to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And that might be a discretion permitted if it's not otherwise governed. That specific question I didn't research on today. I think my experience has been that it's generally attempt to be in order, but there also could be situations where a particular person has information on a particular point. So there might be a reason to not be in order all the time. So I can follow up if you want on that one.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
And then, so I actually don't, I think Councilor Villarreal had hers up next.
And the way you can tell is if you go to panelists, participants, and it shows the hands in order that they
okay. There you seem to be in order compared to, okay, but in the screen, on the squares, you were popping up in different orders. Okay, cool. So yes, you are on the top there, and then Councilor Vihel-Coppler, then Mayor Weber.
So I was just curious about these two ways to express something. Point of order is trying to understand what's happening, especially like as it relates to amendments, et cetera, or what we're voting on, right?
And particularly if you think that we're not following procedure, then you would raise a point of order, and it would be a point of order, isn't the last question X, not Y? Or point of order, this we were supposed to be on, we haven't approved the minutes yet, or we didn't take a vote, that kind of thing. That would be the most appropriate. If it's more of a question, then I think it's probably a different motion, but point of order should be like, you think that we're doing something wrong, like that the rules are not being followed.
Okay. So these questions of privilege then?
It probably is more of a question of privilege.
But we don't say that. I have a question of privilege. It's just on that point. I mean, this is what's confusing to me. Like if you're trying to ask questions to get clarity on what's procedurally what's happening.
Yeah, and I think a point of personal privilege is probably a good, if you have a question more so than alerting folks to a rule issue or a failure to take a vote or something like that.
Okay, so the other thing that I think can be very distracting that happens often is on that point. And then it relies on the chair to try to track that. It's easier to do that when we're in person. On Zoom, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out on that point. I realize there's times that it would help to have additional information.
Yeah, and I think on that, sorry, keep going. I will not interrupt you. Sorry.
How we can, I don't know. There's some limitations I think we need on that. It's very disrupting, especially for somebody who's trying to make a point and they have the floor. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. Do you want me to go, Councilor Romero Worth? Do you want me to address this one or no? Yeah, yes, no?
Yeah, so just really quickly, I would say Aaron and I did talk about this. And I think as a group, if we think we want to get rid of this practice, we don't currently, it's not in our rules. So I would direct everybody to page 9 of our governing body procedural rules. And item D, it says there are three times when you can interrupt a speaker. And on that point has become a custom, but to your point, Councilwoman Villarreal, it is sometimes disruptive to the person who is speaking in their train of thought, depending on when that interruption comes. And so this custom that we've grown accustomed to, we might want to decide as a group is something we no longer want to do, because again, it isn't called for anywhere in our written rules. And Aaron, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, so I think the rules do not currently expressly provide for it, and they do give the reasons that an interruption is allowed for. So I think avoiding that is probably a good idea. To interrupt, really, it should be a point of order for a request or inquiry to obtain information that requires an immediate response, which I think is what you were talking about, Counselor, about like, wait, what is this vote on, right? And then or to raise a privilege. So something comes up that no one's aware of and we need to deal with it, that type of thing, which doesn't happen that often for the question of personal privilege, but other than to address information that requires an immediate response. So that's one of the sections of our rules that refers to Robert's rules. So there's a lot of very obscure motions that could be interrupting motions that I don't think often come to, they're really not relevant often with this group. But I do think finding out any sort of matter of personal privilege, like what is the actual matter on the table, and a point of order are probably the most common. So I think we can probably improve there.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, there's times it's helpful if someone has some information, but it happens so much that it's confusing, and then it interrupts the train of thought of the person that actually has the floor. So I don't know what we need to do to consider that. Maybe just be cognizant of it now, but let's see. The other question I had that we didn't go through is these motions. Well, let me back up. Putting a motion on the floor right away is a new, in my mind, new concept. We didn't used to do that, and maybe that was just something we just had a different approach to it, but we never had to put a motion right off the bat. So, and then I'm trying to figure out when we actually do that. I think there's been confusion as to when to put a motion on the floor for consideration right away. And it's confusing because some items that are, say, those procedural transactional decisions that we have to make that are usually in the afternoon session or afternoon session. And then when we have these public hearing, it feels like it's different. So
it is different. You are absolutely right. Page 10 is where the public hearing procedures are, and they are entirely different. So there's a whole new section.
And page 9 of the governing body's procedural rules is where, if you look at Roman numeral number 7, specifically, and it was in the slide, in one of Aaron's slides, where it says a main motion must be on the floor before debate can take place, and only one main motion may be on the floor at a time. And so this is in our procedural rules. It's just, I think, maybe prior councils, prior to the city attorney, was not observed. And so that's why it feels new. And again, I think, as we've heard throughout the day, we are trying to modernize, we are trying to professionalize, and we are trying to pay more attention to our rules so that we operate more efficiently and effectively. And I think this has been one area where the city attorney's office is trying to help us pay attention to the rules that govern us.
Well, the other thing is there's some items I don't think actually need to do that, putting a motion right off the bat. So when is it different?
So councilors, it's potential that your motion could be to deny something, right? So it is important to know what you're even talking about, like what's the action that's being discussed. So say a contract. So these procedures in terms of motions, starting the debate, relate to matters that aren't a public hearing, because those do have their very specific outlined procedures that include having the public comment before a motion is made. And the idea for that is pretty straightforward, because maybe all the public comment alerts you to new things, and now you want to make a motion to deny rather than a motion to approve, right? So it might affect what your motion is. Whereas with matters that don't have those steps and are really subject to governing body debate, you need to know what you're debating before you start debate.
Yeah, I guess if there's an item that a counselor is sponsoring, it sounds like they would be able to make a motion right away.
That's what we're proposing as a standard. That would be a custom that isn't governed specifically by any rule, but it's a new custom that we're hoping we can adopt so that there's less.
Just to be clear, we didn't do that on Wednesday.
Exactly. Yep.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're saying that from now forward, if you are the sponsor of the legislation, obviously if it got to the governing body, it has already passed one or more committees, and therefore it seems as though the proper motion would be what the sponsor would like, which of course is to approve their measure. And so they would have that opportunity to put that motion on the floor, speak to why they think it's important. Then we'd take questions and amendments. And if the governing body does not want to approve that item, they would vote it down and offer a second main motion, which would be to move to deny. But it seems like to just create, I don't know, instead of a kind of a Jeopardy situation where we're all racing to the button or the raised hand, it just seems better to just make that first motion be one that entertains the passage of whatever legislation is in front of us.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I think the one thing that does not make sense to me, that I didn't see any explanations about motions, privileged motion, subsidiary, and then there was that other one that you brought up, Erin, on Wednesday called priority, or what was it?
Yeah, so higher precedence or higher priority. So I did address that in my email last night, but I didn't prepare slides about it. I prepared these slides before Wednesday mostly. I tweaked them a little bit afterwards, but yes, I could share a chart on that specifically if you'd like.
Right now or when?
Yeah, I'm just going to pull it up from the email I sent last night. Yeah. So, okay, here we go. All right, so these are a couple pages from Robert's rules. So this is a chart for determining when subsidiary or privilege motion is in order. So the main motion you see is on the very bottom here, and that's where you start. And then these motions that are above it are the ones that are available to be made while a main motion is pending. And there's a lot of different stuff going on in this chart, but you can kind of focus on a different aspect of it at each time. So the main thing is that anything above the main motion can be made while a main motion is pending. So you can postpone indefinitely. You could amend the main motion. You could commit whatever is being discussed to a committee or refer it to a committee. But you first need to know what you're talking about before you commit it to a committee. You could postpone it to a certain time, which is what we did the other night. We postponed it until it was going to be heard at finance. So then we would come back to the governing body. You can limit or extend limits of debate. So you could say, like, Mr. Chair, I propose to limit debate on this matter to 15 minutes, or limit debate on this matter to 3 minutes per person. And then if someone made that motion, then you can see that it's not debatable because it's in this undebatable category. And then there's another table about it needs a second, but there's one of the other tables I shared shows some of that, the rules about whether it needs a second and what the voting number is. Most motions only require a simple majority, but we talked about calling the question, which allows for or requires a 2/3 majority. And so you can see that some of these are considered subsidiary motions and some are considered privileged motions. And then up here it talks about the order of precedence of motions. So if you had a main motion and a motion to amend, and then someone else motions to postpone, then the postponement motion would have priority. So you'd have to resolve that one first. Then you would go back. And I think this was the question that Councilor Garcia asked, is when it came back to the council, maybe you'd be back here at this motion to amend.
So
I go back.
I see the options, and I guess what I don't understand is at what point someone can throw in another possibility, and simultaneously, okay, say we did end up having to vote on that postponement, but what about the main motion? That's still on the table.
Right. So it would be on the table at the time that the postponement ended, right? Or when it comes to fruition.
I guess what I'm wondering though is in Wednesday's meeting, there was already a motion and a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have this other option to postpone, which we voted on, or not postpone, to move to go back to committee. But I guess what I'm trying to figure out, that first motion just disappears after that. It's invalidated.
Well, I think at that meeting, right? At least for that meeting. And I think what I told Councilor Garcia I would look at is whether or not we consider the motion to already have been made again once it comes up on the agenda at the next meeting, right?
But if we do the rule that we're proposing, the very first motion will be from the sponsor again.
Right.
And I'm presuming that the sponsor wants that bill to pass, the sponsor would say again, move to approve. And then we take that up and we decide whether there are enough votes on the council to approve whatever the measure is. So we did do that earlier in the night when you wanted to amend the minutes. I think there was a motion on the floor to approve the minutes, and then you had some changes, and then your Primegov didn't work. And so we basically moved to postpone the minutes, the passage of the minutes until the next meeting. So at the next meeting, we will again make a motion to approve those minutes, and they will presumably have the changes that you had wanted them to have before we take that final vote.
Okay, it just seems like it's different for minutes versus an actual piece of like a resolution. So
yeah, it's not. And I think that's why it's helpful to think about those two pieces, because it's the same thing. It's just a different item that's being considered for final approval.
Okay, and so in regards to Councilor Garcia's question about, does that same motion then apply in the next meeting? That's a no, but the sponsor of the motion would be first to make.
We can do more research on this, but I think for all intents and purposes, that meeting is over. We will bring the bill back after it's been to finance, and I think to the city attorney's point the last time, it may not be the same bill, maybe well, except under these rules.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say,
yeah.
Can I make one comment on that? So I think one difference between the minutes is they literally might change because it'll be a different proposed draft of the minutes, and we would need a new motion because they're going to be changed by your corrections, Counselor. I do think let's look a little bit about the other issue, because what if we had a motion to amend that was also already on the table? Like maybe we should just literally go back to that point of the discussion, because of that priority of motions, you could refer to committee or postpone after a amendment to the main motion has been on the table and being discussed as well. So maybe we actually go back right to that. Let's verify that.
The problem with that, though, I think, is that what if that issue is resolved somehow, and so that amendment is no longer germane to throw yet
Like it's
another word in.
withdrawn, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's look at it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, yeah, we'll figure that out.
Okay,
I think,
that's all I have on those topics for now. Thanks.
cool. I think I've got Counselor Vihel Koppler next on the list in the participants list.
Thank you. So some of the things have been discussed, but I want to go back to points of order versus on that point. And I think we should, in my own opinion, we should curtail the use of on that point, and whoever wants to on that point, wait their turn to talk about whatever it is. Because it has been very disrupting, and I don't think that it has always been really on that point. And it has many times it escalates into other points and we do get off track. And I think sometimes the meeting has kind of been commandeered into other areas, and we almost, we seem to have a hard time getting back to where we were. This also happens in committees, and I know we're talking about city council procedure, but I hope that some of these discussions make their way back to committees, because it happens there too. I think I have it straight on the motion of a motion being made to override a main motion, which isn't an amendment, which happened the other night. I'm not sure if I have it straight exactly what that means, but I suppose I'll take the word for it that the main motion disappears. That's what seems to me the answer was ultimately for the last council meeting.
I think we're looking into that. No matter what, under the proposal, the sponsor would still have the opportunity to make the motion at the beginning if we do require a new motion at the next meeting. But I don't think anything necessarily disappears. The idea, I think, is to postpone, literally, right? It's to bring it back after a certain time and under the motion that was made, at least at the last council meeting. Meaning, so the matter comes back because it wasn't imposed. It was not a postpone indefinitely. It was postponed to a certain time, right? So it will be on the agenda again.
Well, okay. My recollection that it was kind of a two-pronged motion. One was to postpone and send to finance.
Right, until finance had the opportunity to consider, right? So I think it was, yeah.
Two items in there, and I'm not so sure that the same procedure applies individually to both, but nevertheless, it's done. And I'm looking forward to what you might bring up next time on this, but it's always good to examine where we've been so that we can understand for the future. Okay, and then I definitely agree and have experienced that the sponsor of a measure is the one who gets to talk first. I see it in the legislature. I've seen it in meetings of the Supreme Court. I've seen it in meetings of district judges that I've been involved with who seem to know Robert's rules and procedural matters and such. And I think it's the only way to go. It's common courtesy. It's professional courtesy. And I think it establishes dignity and decorum of the council chambers. And that's really important. And I took to heart Councilor Rivera's statement at the last meeting. And I think we ought to be very mindful of that, because there's a lot going on under the radar. And I think an example at the last meeting was it all bubbled up to the top and it kind of got a little testy there. And so I think, that we should all do our parts to try to contribute to governing our behavior. And I think to go to governing our behavior for more professionalism, more attributed to dignity and decorum of the council chambers, or committee rooms. And with having this discussion today and recognizing that each one of us will get our turn. And hopefully, if we have a procedure in place, it will look fair. Because frankly, a lot of the stuff that's gone down that I've seen, I question fairness. And I think we ought to move more toward that. And I realize everybody wants their thing to go. And I realize we're free to talk to one another other than in meetings. But I think we all need to realize that we need to be fair to one another. And we're all in this together, and we're all representing our own constituents. It's not just us, you know, it's the people behind us, the people watching, the people that call us. And we need to have a sense of fairness. And I'm stealing those words from the Supreme Court, you know, dignity and decorum. And that's really important. And they stress that, and it's something that I don't believe I've seen here all the time, many times. And I think that, you know, Councilor Rivera's points, they really hit home. We need to get back to that. And so I'm in favor of that. And I'm the one, I feel like I should have had the first opportunity to speak last council meeting. But that didn't happen. I know I will get that opportunity again. And so I'm appreciative of that. So I'm in favor of these changes that we've discussed before. I think point of order should really be point of order, and you know, to question Robert's rules or whatever it is if we're getting off track on something. And I think the sponsor should have the first opportunity to talk on any measure that that person brings forward. And I am looking forward to your answer on a motion on top of a motion, so that we understand how that works. And maybe this will all save some time that Councilor Villarreal wanted to save when she changed the meetings to 4 o'clock. And I think it's working. And so I think our meetings should go probably more smooth. And I'm willing to do my part. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Counselor. Folks might also want to look at page 2 of the governing bodies rules. They do have there's a section on public decorum, and it does say a lot of the things I think Counselor Vihel-Koppler was emphasizing in terms of setting an example for the public's business. So it's a good reminder. It also, yeah, so there's some good information there. Apparently we also should have a designee by the chief of police to be our sergeant at arms, which I'm not sure we have had on Zoom. So let's see, I also had Mayor Weber, and then Councilor Garcia, and then Councilor Casas-Sanchez.
Thank you. And thanks for putting this together today. I think it's incredibly helpful. And I'm going to take all this material home with me over the weekend and do some more homework. A couple things. I think the points about public decorum are really well taken. But as item 2A says, Roman numeral 2, subsection A says, it's not just decorum between each other. It also applies to city staff and how we treat people who appear in front of us. And that the chair may call people to order if they are making personal, intemperate, or slanderous remarks. And I know in the heat of the moment, sometimes opinions or feelings get hot, but taking into account the example we're trying to set not only toward each other, but toward our own staff who come in front of us and the public who may be testifying is really important. So that issue of public decorum governs all of our activities and all of the people who are speaking to us. I have a couple of very specific questions. I'm glad we got addressed the issue of on that point. I think it's become a little bit of a custom that allows for a large amount of editorializing and So I will do my best to be mindful of that. And if we start sliding back toward it, to be politely informing folks that we're now not going to use that shorthand for interrupting. I have a question about calling the question. One of the items in the calling of the question that I did not know was that it only applies if the everyone has had a equal and fair opportunity to speak to the matter at hand.
Well, at least an opportunity.
Yes.
At least spoke once. Yeah,
Yes.
that's our rules rather than Robert's rules. Yeah.
Right, has had an opportunity.
Yeah.
What I know that in the run of a meeting, I don't always know that everyone has had that opportunity or has accorded themselves of that opportunity. What if someone attempts to call the question and we get a point of order, I haven't spoken yet, objection? How is that resolved?
So I think there's one of two ways to consider that. Since we're on Zoom, we do have the opportunity for everyone to have their hands up. So we could either, it could either be there's no hands up, or if someone does say point of order, I haven't spoken yet, and they haven't, then we could let that person speak first. I think those are the two options. Or that you could, you know, apply the first with and the second as the backup. Or I don't know if people have feelings on that.
Well, I just think, again, I think what we're all striving for here is enough consistency that folks aren't going to feel like, to the point that Councilor Neil Copper made, something is not fair and that somebody is not being given a fair shot at speaking. But,
Yeah.
But if the person has spoken once and we have notice of that, I guess that covers the sense of opportunity.
Yeah, if you don't know if everyone's spoken once, you could say, has everyone spoken who wants to on this matter? And give like a final call out, and that would probably be the most fair. So if anyone hadn't put their hand up just because they just hadn't, but they intended to speak, yeah.
The problem is I don't think you can say, has everyone spoken who I can't remember how you just phrased it, but it's not whether you've said everything you could possibly think of. Part of the reason for doing that is that there's a feeling that we're not advancing the conversation anymore, and it's time to move on.
Right. So it wouldn't be for anyone to speak a second time. It would be, has anyone not spoken to this issue who wishes to do so? And then we could do it.
Okay.
So that would be one way. Or, I mean, it does, I don't know, what page is that on again in terms of that is on, so I can look at the exact language. If it's,
I think I hear that Zoom cat.
yeah, he's back. It's about to be 4, so that means it's early dinner time. Counselor, do you remember which page that's on in our rules?
I don't know that it is in our rules. Is
Okay,
it?
for some reason I thought that one was too.
No, I think it's in Robert's rules, because I'm not seeing it either.
Okay. For some reason I thought there was a mention of it in ours as well.
Anyway, I think basically it's, have you had a chance to speak to whatever it is, whether it's the amendment or the bill? If you haven't spoken once, then you can say point of order, and you would be allowed to speak. But it's not, have you said everything under the moon that you would like to say on this thing? Perhaps not. But have you been given at least one opportunity to speak to whatever the motion is?
It is, so there's closing debate on page 10. When a debate appears to be closed, let's see. Okay, yeah, so there is I move the previous question on part D under section 7. The chair shall ask the council members if they're ready for the question. A council member, so that's one way to close debate. And then a council member may move to close debate only when all members of the governing body have had an opportunity to speak on the pending motion. So that's where that is. So it's described in the context of an opportunity, but you could provide more opportunity if they hadn't had their hand raised. So has anyone not spoken on the matter who wishes to do so, I think would work. And then if no one raises their hand, then we could proceed to the vote.
I have one or two other items I'll try to move to really quickly. One is again, a habit that I think I've gotten into and I need advice on. When there is something as simple as approving the agenda, I will say, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? And I don't wait for anyone to raise their hand. I will often just hear a counselor say, I move, out of courtesy in an attempt to move rapidly. They'll just say, I move, and then I second. But we don't go through the formality of me recognizing, oh, Counselor Vihel-Coppler or Counselor Lindell. Is that a shortcut that causes us trouble down the road?
That might be an example of a custom that probably isn't causing problems when it's a matter that's perfunctory, but I think that's an interesting, we can certainly discuss, because there is, I mean, that's one of the rules that I think we're not following to a T all the time, because we do have a section that says members shall be recognized by the chair before speaking. So when a custom is working and
Well, I raise it because I know that, when something's working, it's fine. And then when it doesn't work, it's not fine.
Right.
I mean, to the extent that you think it's what's leading to our bad habits later on in the meeting, maybe you want to make sure we're all, that we don't speak unless recognized. I mean, we could be really rigid about this and that's fine. And maybe that helped us get in the, get in the practice so that we don't get sloppy as we move along.
Well, that really is the final and last question I have. And actually, it's not a question, it's also an invitation. I think, for example, if you look at the document that we were sent, it dates back to 2016, introduced by Councilor Dominguez, and it's got things like things we don't do. In the evening session, we don't actually repeat the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the flag and the invocation. We haven't done that since I became mayor. Maybe previous administrations did. No. Councilwoman says no. I mean, I guess it would be useful to take this home and see whether we want to clean up our own rule. These are our rules. These are nobody else's. This is not something that the city attorney has foisted upon us. These are the rules that we have had adopted, and they are subject to amendment. I'll give you another one that I just read for the first time. I didn't realize it. Item E on page 9, rules for speakers. E says, a member may speak more than once to the same motion only when all council members desiring to speak have been heard. I have not tried to enforce that. I've simply looked at whether people, as we've tried today, to look at the hands that have gone up, and people will put their hand up and then they'll hear something and they'll want to come back and respond to it before someone else has had their chance to speak. And I have not up till now tried to enforce this E provision. And really, I think the point of the rules is for us to feel, as Councilor Vihel-Coppler said, that we're all being treated fairly and that there's decorum and a process that works. These rules were given to us. If that's a rule we like as a given practice, we can attempt to become more enforcing of it. Or if we don't like it, or we feel it's not conducive to a fair flow of discussion, we can come back with amendments at a subsequent conversation. But I do think if we want to follow these either rigid, no, I don't want to use the word rigidly, but accurately, or with more interpretive opportunity, that's really up to the governing body to attempt to create the culture of our meetings.
Mayor, another one that's sort of interesting in this list is page 12, item B, explanation of a vote. any member of the governing body may make a brief statement to explain his or her vote not to exceed 1 minute, which is an interesting, I didn't realize there was a length of time which a counselor was limited.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to become more, for me at least, to become as familiar as I can. I know I've been leaning on both the parliamentarian and the city attorney as guides through these procedural matters, but all of us need some working familiarity, and if things aren't working, let's flag them and we can do a little spring cleaning on our own procedures. Thank you. I just wanted to identify those items that had come to me. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mayor. Thanks for pointing those out. We've got Counselor, I thought, Counselor Garcia, were you next? Is this the accurate order? Yep, okay. I thought you flipped for some reason, but.
It's Friday. I'm flipping upside down.
All right. I'm looking forward to when Zoom starts doing that.
And then it's a 3-day weekend too. So
not for us.
I'm sorry. But I really appreciate this conversation and that we're all wanting to work towards uniformity and equity and getting our parliamentary process in order and getting our rules in order. You know, I know we've all probably had our separate frustrating points. I think one recommendation is get a book of Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, I've had to pick one up just because I think it's sometimes led to that frustration, but that's where I guess my question comes in play is, should we have questions? Who do we go to? Do we go to the parliamentarian? Do we go to you, Aaron? Because I know that what might have led to frustration that we saw on Wednesday is we've asked for clarification and we didn't necessarily get the clarification we maybe sought out. And I think that's where, do we have an impartial person that would say, you can make such and such motion, or this is the roadmap in front of you. These are your options. Because I know that, you know, understanding the process and rules, you can use it to your benefit or you can use it to others' non-benefit. And I think we need to have somebody at least giving guidance during the meeting that will be that impartial person. So I don't know if who that might be.
Counselor, ideally that is both the parliamentarian and I think my office. So I think we should both be able to do that. I think just so everyone knows, Counselor Romero Worth and I are doing some online trainings, and I'm hoping to become a registered or certified parliamentarian to add that to my list of abilities, and then maybe take that even farther. So, you know, there are sometimes technical questions that no one in the room will know the answer to, unfortunately, which is like why I'm asking to maybe answer your other question by doing some research. And you're right, that book, it's certainly a good resource and it's very thick, right? This is much bigger than our own rules, which is why it's nice that sometimes we have a nice shortcut. So because our rules do cover some of these topics so a lot of what's in this book will say, well, maybe this, and then if you want maybe this, or if you're a legislative body, this, right? So, and then we are only under the legislative category. And an example is the time period to speak, because that's come up a few times. Like, doesn't Robert's Rules cover the time period to speak? Well, I looked that up. And if we weren't a legislative body, it would be 10 minutes. But it says, but if you're a legislative, it says for non-legislative bodies, the default is 10 minutes or something like that. Well, we're a legislative body, so the default doesn't apply to us. And so it's just according to our own rules. And we don't have a rule on it. So there is no rule on that subject, right? But that's the example where it's like, well, here's one rule. But then if you're this, it's this other rule. And then if you're a legislative body, there's no rule. Like, you have to make up your own rule. So Robert's Rule only goes so far sometimes too, right? And so we might not know the answer at the tip of our tongues at the time something happens. So I think both Councilor Merworth and I will both give our best shot and try to help each other.
And,
okay, no, that's helpful.
And lean on the rules so that.
Oh, I can't hear you, Councilor.
I'm sorry, and lean
Councilor
on the
Merworth,
rules.
are you talking?
Yes. Weird. Can you hear now?
Can everyone else hear her? Oh,
Yes.
shoot. Oh, I have a volume control on this headset and it got turned off. Sorry.
Oh, here's the cat.
Yes, he's
I think to
hungry.
assure Councilor Garcia, we will be answering based on the rules that we have, and now we all understand what sources we're pulling from. We're pulling from, you know, the governing body procedural rules, this big fat book, the list on the slide that Aaron started with, including, you know, ordinances, statutes, constitutional requirements, our charter. So those are the sources for the answers, and we are trying to be more versed in what all those things tell us and how they guide us in creating a process for debating the subjects that come in front of us.
Okay, so that's definitely good to know. That way, if we do have a point of parliamentary procedure, we can refer to two folks on the governing body and ask for guidance. I definitely like that. The rest of my questions were asked by my colleagues, but I appreciate this conversation, and thank you for putting the materials together, Aaron. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Cassett Sanchez.
Thank you. I will be quick as we are already over. Just to confirm, so when there is a sponsor, they will be the one to move the motion, but they'll be moving a main motion. Any amendments, even if they are amendments that the sponsor is in favor of, will not be moved with that main motion, and we will take those amendments up one at a time and have to vote on them before we can consider another one, correct? Okay, great.
Counselor, that's correct. Yes. Yes. As compared with each other, right? Each of the amendment motions have the same level, right? So we'd have to take care of one once it's been moved and seconded, right?
And then if we start to get into complications on amendments and we decide to refer back, that's just referring everything back to a committee. I think that would make sense. And then if there is not a sponsor, so if it's a contract or the agenda, or I guess the one piece where I could see more potential disagreement among the governing body might be like a land use case where there would not be a sponsor, and it's just kind of whoever gets there first at this juncture.
Counselor, yes, I think that's right. So quasi-judicial has a even third set of procedures, right? So we've got the public hearing procedures that start on page 10 in our rules. And then on page 11, it talks about the special rules for quasi-judicial proceedings. And land use matters actually have their own resolution with their own procedures, which we did. I can send those out, but they are very specialized. And that's one of the areas. My cat is very persistent right now. I'm so sorry. I should probably run and feed him. But the land use area is where we actually have a lot of case law we have to look at too. That gets the most complicated in terms of constitutional law. And it's because property rights are at issue, right? So whenever life, liberty, or property is at issue, and when it's someone's it's their own property, not a generalized matter, then you have the highest level of protection of rights. The more specific something gets to a particular individual's life, liberty, or property, so like a criminal case, right? That's that person's life, liberty, or property. The rights that are associated with that go up as well. And so when we have a particular person's property that's at issue, the same thing. And that's why it's a lot more regulated compared to other areas that we get involved in.
Yeah, if you could send those out, that would be handy.
Will do. Yep.
So I don't have to search
Yep.
on the website. And then did I have another? Let me see if it comes back to my brain. It's not coming back. I'll email you when it does. But that was all. Thank you for this presentation. I think it was really helpful. I do also I like the proposed rule for making the motion. I think that'll help things a lot. So
great.
Thanks,
And if
everyone.
counselors want to make it into a rule, which would make it, go forever, well, that would be
I was just going to
amending.
say, we can write that out and adopted as part of our procedural rules.
Exactly, yes. So right now it would be essentially, this is the recommended custom that we're making to the chairperson so he can put it in place. So he has the control to do that right now with his discretion. So, and he seems to be in agreement with it. We got Councilor Lindell, I believe.
Yeah, I just was going to suggest that you go feed your cat. Actually, I just wanted to say that this has been super helpful. Thanks. I think we're all trying to pull in the same direction and get it done. And sometimes when we're doing it on the fly in meetings, it makes it really, really hard. But this is going to help a lot. And you know, we have you working on this. We have a parliamentarian, and I think we're headed in the right direction. And I just, before we sign off, wanted to thank you very much. And I also appreciated very much the other presentations that were put together today. It was all excellently done. It was time really well spent. It got a little bit long, but that's what we're in for. And you know, it's appreciated. So I'm signing off. Thank you.
Sig, is
Thank
that
you,
your
Counselor.
dog chewing a chew toy? I thought all of a sudden Aaron's kitty had turned into a ventriloquist.
No, it's my dog.
Okay. Any other last, for the good of the order, anything anybody wants to bring up? We're about 15 minutes over budget, but it's been time well spent. The next order of business on the agenda, I believe, Madam Clerk, is to adjourn.
Yes, it absolutely is. So we will do that. And I will be emailing out the PowerPoint presentations for all of you who have. And I think just moving forward, any feedback or if you would like additional workshops scheduled, we're happy to do that. So if an item comes up that you think would be helpful, please let me know. So thank you all for coming.
Thanks for putting it together. Thanks, everybody. Have a good, safe weekend.